Hello everyone, this is God Cheeto, and I'm here with my friend Agent Muffin. How are you, Agent Muffin?
Agent Muffin?
Yeah.
I'm alright.
Am, as I like to call you. Actually, no, that's a bad, because Am is the name of the evil computer from I Have No Mouth and I Must Scream.
Rasen, I hate muffins.
Oh, wow, damn.
Let me tell you how much I hate blueberries. Fuck this joke.
Yeah, Harlan Ellison did it better. We should get Harlan Ellison on this podcast.
Okay.
He's got nothing better to do. Anyways, so we're back, and it's been about a month.
Yeah, we're really on track for one a month with this guy, I think.
Yeah, I think...
This guy, the
This
podcast.
guy, hey, this guy, wow.
Hey, it's my buddy WAFP.
This lad. So, I mean, not a lot's changed in our lives. So we're just gonna go over a bunch of the shit we did last time.
I'm gonna be real honest right at the gate out of this one. I've done fucking nothing this month. So this is gonna be mostly Rasen talking about his shit for a long time, me talking about mine for like 5 minutes, and then fucking questions.
It'll still probably end up being like 3.5 hours though, don't worry.
Ooh, I did remember something else. Okay, so there's one more thing we can talk about actually.
Okay.
We'll get to that on mine, I guess.
Okay, fucking write it down before you forget.
I won't forget.
Okay. So, I want to give an update on the Unsolved Mysteries bandwagon.
Yeah.
So, I felt compulsed to, like, because I was honestly just looking at the episode descriptions at a point and, like, just kind of clicking on shit that seemed interesting. But I decided, like, you know, maybe I should just start watching it more in order. Sure enough, continuing the fucking trend that I said last time with the time I stumbled onto the random episode that covered the Crow murder accident thing, I am scrolling through, like, okay, what's the, like, first episode that I haven't watched yet, like, just of all the seasons? Like, what's my first one that I just haven't touched at all? And the big... like, bullet point for that one was a case called Real Life Twin Peaks, question mark?
Oh, wow, you're the only one that's ever watched Twin Peaks.
Yeah.
So that's really for you.
Yeah. Well, like, I mean, it's one of those things where it's like fucking the show just keeps mimicking things from the 90s.
Yeah, it's almost like that was a cultural phenomenon or something.
Yeah. Okay, the Crow one was weird, though, you have to admit.
Well, no, because that was a pretty big deal when it happened. Not the movie, but the death.
That's true.
That
Okay.
death certainly outshined that movie. Ooh, that's a weird way to say that.
You want to know the bullshit about the Twin Peaks one?
What?
You know, okay, it was a small town in, like, Washington and a girl died. Similarities on there. That's it. That's real life Twin Peaks. That's it.
I mean, what, there was no weird red rooms?
No, and, like, I think the narrator says something at some point like, it reminded a lot of people of Twin Peaks. Or, or something like that. And it's like, wow,
Man.
You shoved this in.
That must suck, though, if that really happened, like... Not Twin Peaks, but, like, imagine your kid dying and everyone's like, oh, dude, it's like Twin Peaks! Yeah. Oh, fuck off.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay, so I don't have much to say about Twin Peaks. Oh, I got a couple things. The first thing, I forgot to mention a big part of the show last time I talked about it, because it's not all, like, true crime shit, and it's not all, like... the dumb, like, Bobby saw a ghost, or Liz thinks she was abducted by a UFO. They're, like...
Sorry, you're talking about Unsolved Mysteries right now,
yes,
right?
Yes.
Okay, you said Twin Peaks.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. But, I mean...
I just wanted to call you out on that.
Okay, it's fine. It's fine.
Just for our listeners, you know?
So something I want to clarify about Unsolved Mysteries, then. Because, yeah, honestly, there's a lot of similarities there. One just happens to be based on true events. Twin Peaks.
Yeah,
no.
Twin Peaks, yeah.
So, the thing about Unsolved Mysteries is they have this thing they do called Lost Loves or whatever, or like missing
missed connections.
missed connections, basically, type shit. And it's basically like, hey, someone in my life like went missing or we got separated, and it's not because of like they didn't get kidnapped or anything. Like most of the time it's like, oh, when I was 4, my brother and I were taken away from our abusive parents and I have no idea where he ended up. Or like stuff like, hey, me and this guy served in Vietnam together, but his English wasn't very good, but he like saved my life, and like I don't know who he was, sort of thing. Um, and almost all of them actually end with them being reunited with the person, because it's like eventually someone in fucking United States knows who they're talking to and managed to like call in and be like, hey, and then on reruns they would show like them like hugging and like, finding each other. It was really good. It was really wholesome, like positive, uplifting thing in the middle of that show being about death and, that sort of thing. So just through my work, like my fucking real life job and shit, I've been doing a lot of archival digging and like working with libraries and stuff to track down information. And oh my god, the internet makes that entire process so much easier, to the point where I don't even think in this like day and age it would be worth making a show out of anymore.
I mean, we joked about it, but literally misconnections is a thing.
Yeah,
like Reddit just completely breaks that whole thing down.
Like, yeah, like it is shocking just how simple that sort of thing is, and it's like we're 2 decades away from that show being on TV, like it so that kind of blew my mind, just thinking like, man, like if you got separated from your brother or sister or some shit when you were a kid and like you were like 18, like back in the 80s, you didn't know what to fucking do, like
yeah, the world is large and impossible to find someone in.
Yeah, it's so like you get all these people like, yeah, I went to like every like adoption house in the state and like looked through the records and we didn't, and it's like shit. And the other thing is you can see a very clear jump from when that show leaves the 80s and goes into the 90s, where you get more and more interviews with cops that are like, yeah, this is why we recommend that you don't let your children out of sight, or also, hey kids, don't hitchhike ever. Like, you start to see the culture changing and like the clamping down of like, yeah, maybe we should be a little more aware of the fact there are bad people out there, sort of thing, which was really interesting to watch. Because honestly, a lot of those mysteries start with so-and-so was last seen hitchhiking and they never were seen again, or they wound up dead. And it's like, yeah, that was a thing before I was born.
Yeah.
So I don't know anyone. I actually don't think I have ever known anyone of my age that has hitchhiked, because you just know now that's not a good idea.
Yeah, growing up, hitchhiking was always like, well, that's a way to get killed.
Yeah, but like it's hard for me to imagine a time where it was just like, oh, that's the thing you did if you're traveling or wanted to get somewhere.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's been a thing. That show is still a thing. Actually, okay, I have one more thing to talk about. I wasn't planning.
Actually, no, it's not still a thing, is it?
No, it's not, but it's a thing in my life, and I'm the only person who matters, so.
Yeah.
So, okay, this was actually something that I wasn't going to talk about, but there are 2 cases in that show that have stuck with me, and they don't actually have, well, actually one of them does, but they're not specifically like, oh, someone got killed or there's a serial killer, like someone got kidnapped, all that. There are like 2 cases in that show where like over the span of like a decade, there are just people like doing like innocuous things to harass like a household, and they never find out who did it. And it gets to the point where like everyone in that person's like lives and like law enforcement even are like, okay, we would have found the person by now if this was a real thing. You're just making this shit up. And as soon as that happens, it gets a lot worse, and like a big thing happens. In one case, the person who was like, I'm being stalked and harassed, gets murdered. And in the other case, it just stops happening. And the idea of someone spending that like long of a period of time fucking with you, and then eventually becomes a boy who cried wolf thing, is the most horrifying thing I think I could ever think of. Yeah. Well, like, one of them was, like, one of them was weird because it was a couple. And, like, both of them had no reason to do it. And, like, there were, I think they, like, those two were the ones where it just kind of stopped happening. But it was just like, yeah, we just kind of moved and it stopped happening. But it's just like they would get threatening letters, like someone just like broke into their house, did nothing but left the door open. And it's like, fuck, you know?
Yeah.
But yeah, that show's a good way to, like, if you're thinking like, yeah, I'm gonna just watch this as I go to bed at night, and then you like turn the TV off and you're like, damn, I don't know if I want to go to bed anymore. Yeah. Unsolved Mysteries is wild shit. But, you know what else is wild shit?
What's wild shit, Rasen?
The Boundaries of Emptiness.
Oh no, I'm in a garden of sinners.
Yeah.
This won't fucking go away.
No, it won't. So we're still going to talk about Kyoukai, because I started rewatching it in chronological order, but I haven't yet gotten to the new shit, because I'm saving it for last. So I don't got much to talk about with Kyoukai. If you want to hear our thoughts, you can listen to the podcast we had basically devoted to it, and like the three beforehand.
No, yeah, that's the problem, is in order to get the full Kyoukai experience, you gotta go back to when Rasen first starts watching it.
Yeah.
Which is, I want to say, 3 episodes before the Kyoukai cast?
It is, because one podcast we did movie 1, the other we did movie 2, the other we did movie 3, and then it was the rest.
Yeah.
Minus the OVAs.
And then in a recent episode, I watched 8.
Yeah.
And now we've got this update of you rewatch them in chronological order.
But I haven't yet gotten to, like, the new one.
Okay.
Like, past the epilogue.
So how are you enjoying chronological order?
Okay, so I have to say, I think that series works chronologically, but I can't recommend it in good faith on a first time through, because I feel like you have to be patient with it, but if you're recommending the movie series to someone and you know they'll stick with it, I have to say, I think the deliberate pacing of how they reveal information to you in those first 4 movies pays off really well, actually. But yeah, you're not gonna know what the hell's going on that entire first movie, which is a problem.
Yeah, that's the main thing. And you could go back, and I've said before, I don't think either order is necessarily good, because both movie 1 and movie 2 are bad openings.
Yeah.
Movie 2 is like a slow, very non-Kyoukai thing. And then movie 1, if you start with that, you just have no idea what's going on.
Yeah, I will say, now that I completely know everything that's going to happen, there's things in all of them that I'm appreciating more.
Yeah, for sure. I absolutely think you need to watch Kyoukai twice.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, honestly, that's part of the reason I wouldn't recommend chronological first. Because I think the true fun experience is watch it the intended way first, and then do chronological on the rewatch. Because then you get to, like, that's fun in and of itself.
Yeah, for sure.
My opinion on any of those movies hasn't really changed.
Have you gotten to 1 yet?
Yes. So, well, okay, so that's the thing, I guess. Like, I liked that movie the first time I saw it, but, like, the only difference is now I understand what's going on. It's still a good movie. The most drastic differences I guess I've had is I appreciate 4 a little bit more. I still think it's one of the weaker ones, but, like, as the second part of the story and not the fourth, I think it's good as a setup for what's coming next. So I appreciated that just a little bit more. And also, there's some, like, thematic stuff in that movie that I just didn't pick up the first time. I don't know how I missed it.
In 4?
Yeah.
Well, I remember talking about that too. Like, what are you referring to exactly?
The line where Toko says, like, "Oh, you don't know how much you're sad that you're hollow, but that just means you have a whole lifetime to, like, fill with experience," or whatever, something like that. And I just completely forgot that was a thing that was said, but, like, rewatching it, I was like, oh, that's actually really cool.
Yeah, so. Movie 4 there's very strong themes of, like, identity and self, and, like, how to move on from certain things.
Yeah, and just cause, like, that actually has like some weight to my life too, and I was like, oh yeah, that's actually like it applied more this time around, that I was paying more attention, I guess. The only thing, this is just kind of goofy. I love how that whole movie, she's like, I'm gonna teach you how to use these eyes. And then at the end of the movie, she's like stabbing herself, but not injuring herself to take out a spirit. She's like, yeah, I need you to teach me how to use these. And it's like, you seem pretty good already, kid. I don't know. Like, that was just a little silly to me.
No, it's fine. She needs the Awazaki guidance.
Yeah, I guess.
Just like Shiki Tono.
Oh, oof. We'll get to that one day. I'm still reading Suki.
Well, I mean, you read the prologue originally.
Yeah, I did.
You've seen her sister.
Yeah.
And how that's the same fucking story.
It really is. I actively disliked movie 6 more.
It's so bad.
So
it doesn't fit anywhere.
So here's my thing with that. I feel like there's a idea. So like, take out her sister, the fucking Mikia's sister first.
Yeah, take out the incest, sure.
Yes, take out the incest. I think that movie could have worked if it was in the first half and not between 5 and 7. Like,
and that's the best part. It's always between 5 and 7, no matter how you go about it.
Because, like, I do think in the first half of that story, you can fit in some more serialized format, like, battle adventure, like, episodic stuff.
Sure, but that one in particular is not very good.
Yeah. Well, okay, so that's the other thing. Both of the villains of that movie suck. Like, bad. They're not interesting at all. I mean, Fours isn't either, but, like, Fours, I feel like they kind of had to shoe in a villain for 4 in the first place.
So, yeah, the villain for 4 is apathy.
Yeah, honestly.
So here's the best part. When you eventually, and you probably will one day, go for a third rewatch, or well, a second rewatch technically, you'll become the exact same thing as me, which is chronological but ignore 6.
I might, honestly, like, so okay, I was kind of gonna dance around and leave it a surprise. I want to actually do, like, some analysis video thing of Cardo Kyoukai, because it's one of those things that is refusing to leave my head.
Hey.
To the point where, so, like, my ankle's been fucked up the past, like, week or so. So, like, there was just a day where I was just in bed, and I just started typing, and, like, within, like, a couple hours, I had 3,000 words typed up, and I was like, okay, I gotta do something with this at some point. But, like, part of my thing with 6 is I start that, like, the part I have written on 6, because I just kind of did it in fragments, just kind of outlining my thoughts at least, and then, like, once I'm done with the rewatch, I'll go all the way back and flesh it out more. But part of my thing with 6 is normally when I go through a thing a second time, and I really liked it, I'll tend to go, like, try to see where it falls apart a little bit, or if there's something that I really don't like, and I want to watch it a second time, I'll try to see the good in it, you know?
Yeah.
Like, I want to round out my opinion so that it's like, okay, I want to be balanced about this and, like, you know, kind of give more nuance to how I feel about a thing. I could not find anything to salvage Oblivion recording, parentheses, fairy tale.
Yeah.
That's a bad movie.
Hey, so, and I know you haven't gotten to it yet, but I'll say this, and I touched on it last time. 8 is my second least favorite.
Nice.
And I'll say that I feel like I dislike it a fair bit, but unlike 6, I do think there are salvageable elements to it.
That's good.
It's one of those movies where I'll watch 8. Well, I've only seen it once, but I watched it and I was like, man, I really wish this, and this wasn't here, or this wasn't like this. But that's pretty cool, and I wish there was more of that, you know?
I think we should also say that Cardo Kyoukai, because last time we talked about it, we referenced, hey, it's on Amazon Video now, just under the title The Garden of Sinners. Hey, it's now actually also on Crunchyroll now, under the same name, so you could go watch it there too.
And you know what's real fucked up?
What?
I'm pretty sure we could fake Grand Order for both of that.
Well, the one was because it was on Anime Strike, and then they canceled the program.
Okay, well then at least for
Crunchyroll, though. Yeah.
because they timed that with the event in Fate Grand Order. They timed it with the Karen no Kyokai event.
Yeah, for sure. And they also had like
got a partnership with, they did like a giveaway.
They gave like a figure giveaway for like a rare Shiki figure and shit. Like, yeah, so.
Hey, I did that event in Fate Grand Order. I grinded my soul out and I got my fucking Shiki servant. Both of them. I got the assassin and the saber.
Was it worth it?
Yes.
Okay.
Rasen, were you there for that?
No.
You weren't there? Because I spent all of 200 of my Saint Quartz in a call.
I don't know what that means. You're gonna have to run that back.
Well, Saint Quartz is the in-game currency.
Is that the gacha bucks?
That's the gacha bucks.
Okay.
And I had saved up 200 for the Karen no Kyokai event because I needed Saber Shiki because it's the one with the katana.
Mm-hmm.
From movie 5, but then as you evolve her, because that's what a fucking is, she turns into her movie 8 version. But yeah, I spent all 200 Saint Quartz and I didn't get her, and then I was like, man, I have just enough left that if I spend $8 of real money, I can do one more pull. And I did it, and I got her. And I swear to God, I almost cried in a Skype call.
Oof.
So worth it.
All this over JPEGs, kids.
Yeah, fuck you. Anyway, Karen no Kyokai is really good. Fate Grand Order, you probably should stay away.
Listen to this man. Anyways. You know what also is really good that I finally watched?
What?
Firewalk with Me.
Oh.
So, actually, I want to start this off by saying Happy Twin Peaks Day, everyone.
It's not today.
Yeah, it is.
Oh.
Twin Peaks Day.
I thought it was yesterday.
No, it's today. Cause.
But you see, I meant when this episode goes up, of course.
Oh, fuck you. I'm just gonna like make this one come out 2 months from now.
Yeah. Hey, how's Zelda going?
Hell yeah. Hell yeah.
Man, those jokes I make in that Zelda Let's Play about, hey, this will go up in April.
Oh, oof, that's getting real. So, I have to say, though, it is Twin Peaks Day, and the only reason it's Twin Peaks Day is because on episode 1 of that show, main character goes, I'm going into Twin Peaks right now, it's February 24th, 11:30. And everyone's
blah, blah.
Everyone's like, oh, hey, it's Twin Peaks Day now. So I was like, you know what? I still haven't watched the Twin Peaks prequel movie. I'm gonna do that. That is both a prequel and a sequel.
Yes.
So, don't watch that first, because I think there's been people that have done that. That movie does not make sense unless you have watched the, like, episodes
all of
that...
the show.
Yeah. There's a point where have you seen it?
No, but I read Wikipedia article on it a long time ago.
Okay, because there's a point, so I'm gonna be as vague as possible. A person gets injured in the final episode of that show, and the main character of Firewalk with Me goes into her bed one night, and she turns around, and lying on the bed is the bloody, like, woman from the final episode of the show being like, write this in your diary, and then she blinks and she's gone. And, like, that doesn't make sense unless you've seen that entire series.
Yeah, because it makes so much sense after you've seen the series.
Yeah. Well, okay, you know who the person is at least.
Yeah.
So, that movie is kind of notorious because when it came out, people expected answers and they didn't really get them, and people hated that movie. And it wasn't until after where people kind of calmed down about it and were like, okay, this is actually a pretty damn good movie. The problem being, like, you need to watch this entire TV series beforehand. And especially now with, like, hey, we have season 3, it's a little less egregious that the shit doesn't get, like, resolved or whatever. That movie is terrifying. That movie is about, like, So that movie follows Laura Palmer, who is the murder victim that, like, is behind the whole mystery of, like, oh, who killed Laura Palmer in Twin Peaks? Like, that's what the whole show is about. So that entire series, you're learning more and more about Laura and all the shit she was involved with that eventually led to her, like, being murdered. So you're kind of watching the movie like, okay, so how does this all, like, actually come together? And yeah, she has a really fucked up life. um, it literally like, that series takes place, like, the week before that show starts, up until, like, the night before the first episode of that show starts. And it kind of reframes how you view some of those characters. Like, hey, this one character's kind of acting weird early on because a few days ago he shot someone. And, like, I didn't think about that before, but I'm like, oh, he's probably dealing with that through the early part of season 1 still. But you don't learn about it till you see the movie. That movie is also just, like, raw, like, this is what it's like living in an abusive household, to the point where it had a, there is just a scene where it's like something really creepy and fucked up happens, and then we're just gonna all eat dinner like nothing happened, and it was the most uncomfortably relatable thing that I've ever seen in my life, and I kind of needed to pause the movie for a bit. It was not a good time. Oof, yeah, that was a rough-ass movie, but it's really good. It also has something that I think, if described, is the cheesiest thing ever, but, like, actually seeing it, like, how they do it, it works really well, involving, like, there's a painting that has an angel in it, and then later on in the movie, the angel disappears, and then, like, at the end of the movie, the angel comes back, but it's a real angel, and it's like, oh, wow. And it sounds really dumb, but in practice, it works a lot better. That's a good-ass movie, though. I'm really excited to get to Season 3, but I need to read this huge Secret History of Twin Peaks book that I have laying around before I can do that.
Yeah.
That's a series.
Well, I can interject with the thing I remember that we could talk about.
Okay.
To throw something in here about movies.
Okay.
I watched all 3 Cloverfield movies.
Yeah, you did.
Yeah. Did you watch the new one?
Not yet. I
Not
keep
yet.
forgetting.
It's not good.
Yeah, like, that's the thing too, is, like, I keep seeing people talking about it, and, like, I don't have much of a desire to check it out. But
so I've intended to watch Cloverfield since it came out. I just never was super interested enough to watch it.
Mm-hmm.
And then when 12 Cloverfield Lane came out, I was like, okay, well, I want to watch this, but I got to watch the first one first. Even though people said you didn't have to, I wanted to anyway.
Yeah.
So the third one coming out was finally my, like, all right, I'm sitting down and I'm watching all 3 of these today.
Mm-hmm.
And, you know, I wrote a fucking blog post about it and everything.
Can we talk? So we're gonna do this in order. Can I have a spiel about Cloverfield 1 real quick?
Sure.
That movie has kind of been forgotten, but that is, like, fucking ground zero for all the viral marketing and, like, found footage shit that the rest of that decade was, like,
yeah,
all over. Like, it, like, other than, like, Blair Witch, which is the obvious one, that shit started
Paranormal Activity.
I think that was after Cloverfield.
Was it?
I don't know. I think so. I want to say so. But if not, it was around the same time for sure.
Yeah.
But viral marketing, that was a big Cloverfield thing. And I'm going to bring that up later for the second film, actually. But please talk about your Cloverfield experience.
So, Cloverfield 1, I am actually glad that I waited on that, because if I had watched that in the height of found footage era, I don't think I would have cared much. But as a fun throwback to an era that I kind of hadn't noticed vanished until I watched this, it's like, oh yeah, it's actually been quite a while since this was a thing now.
Yeah. I have to say, I saw that in theaters with, like, a group of my dumb friends when did that movie come out again?
like want to say like 2008. I don't
Yeah,
know.
so like we were young, and that's one of like those distinct like teen memories of like, oh, all of my friends and I are gonna go see a scary movie at the theater and like be shits. Like that's one of the movies I think of. I'll always have a fond memory of that movie for that reason. But
So I enjoyed it, I guess. um, there are parts of that movie I like, and I thought it was a fun time. But the main character, or like the character behind the camera, is one of the most insufferable, like tone breaking little shits I've ever seen, and he ruins the entire movie for me.
I don't even remember. Is his name Hud?
I don't remember.
I think his name is HUD because they wanted the like heads up display.
Oh, fuck off.
Yeah. Um that movie also starts so slow and bad with a party that you don't care about.
I didn't mind the party bit.
Okay.
I knew what it was leading to.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, we're gonna get character setups and stuff here. It's just that main character's so fucking bad. He's so bad.
Oof.
He completely, like, no other character in the movie is like this, but when there's, like, a serious scene, they feel the need to make him, like, break the tension with some jokes or, like, oh shit, this is bad dudes, wow, like, wacky bullshit. It's like, oh god, no, this ruins this film entirely.
It's been a while since I've seen it, but I remember him being a thing, definitely.
It's so bad. And, like, the other characters aren't great either. They're just kind of bland, but they at least serve their purpose, you
honestly,
know?
I can't really remember any of their names. I only remember HUD because, oh, that was a haha, wink, wink, nudge, nudge game joke thing.
I don't remember any of their names either, and I watched it, like, 2 weeks ago, so...
I have some fun facts about that movie.
Go for it.
The first one was, in the original test footage for that, like, the test screenings of that movie, you know, the iconic scene where the Statue of Liberty's head conveniently flies on their street?
Yeah.
They originally had that proportioned realistically, and everyone in the theater went, no, the fucking Statue of Liberty's head isn't that small. And the people making the movie were like, actually, that's super real. And they got strong-armed by the audience into making it bigger because everyone who saw the movie was like, fuck, a Statue of Liberty is not that small.
Nice.
And hey, as someone who, I'm pretty sure you're close enough, you've seen the Statue of Liberty in real life, haven't you?
Yes.
It's not that big. It's really not that big. But yeah, that also, you have the DVD, right? I think I remember you saying.
I do have the DVD.
Okay.
I didn't watch it on that DVD
okay.
though.
Hey, if you have a chance, boot it up. There are some fun Easter eggs in there. Like one of them is, you know, like the sewer parasite dog chase scene.
Yeah, aka the best scene in the movie.
Yeah, exactly. If you fiddle around with the menus, you can like highlight a part of the background, and if you click it, it gives you a version of that scene where the dogs weren't CGI'd in yet, so it's just a bunch of blue X's chasing the characters around. It's the funniest fucking thing. And then also, did you catch the little thing at the end with the satellite crashing into the water?
What do you mean?
So do you know when it shows the footage at the end and they're on the Ferris wheel?
Yeah.
If you look closely, when it goes out over into the water, and it's the most missable thing in the world, like, I like, had to wait till the DVD came out to have any clue what anyone was talking about. You can see a thing fall from space into the water. And that is what leads into the viral marketing campaign of Cloverfield, where it's about some beard, I don't know why I said beard. I meant to say weird. Weird corporate espionage involving, like, soda companies and a satellite and a bunch of shit. And that basically, so here's the thing. None of that really fucking matters. The thing that matters is, oh, hey, a satellite fell from like space onto Earth, part of the satellite broke off and landed in the water outside New York City, and that's what woke up Cloverfield monster thing.
Okay.
So
Well, as of Cloverfield 1, that's what happened.
yeah, so we'll talk about that, but there's another thing. There's a Cloverfield manga.
Which is non-canon.
Yes. Do you know about the Cloverfield manga?
I Wikipedia read it and saw that they said it was now officially non-canon and ignored it.
It's the funniest shit. Like a fucking like. Have you seen Akira? I always forget.
Nope.
Oh, okay. Anyways, so there's a little shit like bullied Japanese kid, and he eventually gains like psychic powers that lets him control the Cloverfield monster, and like they imply he's the reason that Cloverfield 1 happens. It's bad. It's really bad. So the only thing I really have to go off of is in 10 Cloverfield Lane when creepy man says, "Oh yeah, I worked with satellites." I was like, that is for me and the 5 other people that remember that viral marketing campaign. So yeah.
So
let's talk about 10 Cloverfield Lane, because that's a legitimately good-ass film.
I gotta sit up for this one.
Okay.
Let's talk about 10 Cloverfield Lane.
The movie I feel most guilty about not seeing in theaters in the world.
Oh, well.
Because I wanted to, but no one else wanted to go, and I was like, fuck it, I'll wait. And I really wish I hadn't.
So you know how you just said, and this is kind of why I wanted to talk about it here, that you had to pause Fire Walk with Me?
Yeah.
There was a moment in 10 Cloverfield Lane where I really, really, really wanted to pause it, get up, and take a 10-minute break.
Yeah.
Just because I was so uncomfortable that I wanted to step away from the situation, and I realized that that would be cheating, and I couldn't do it.
Yeah.
Nope, I have to stay here.
Was it the princess scene?
I don't remember the exact scene, honestly. It was like middle towards the end of the movie.
Okay.
It was just the scenes that kept building on each other. I just wanted to walk away so badly.
Because the one that fucks with me in that movie, is where they're playing that board game, and like, he's supposed to guess the term "a woman," and he like the other dude goes like Michelle is a, and he goes like girl, little girl, princess.
Yeah.
And it's like, you don't think of her as an adult woman at all. That's ooh. Yeah. Yeah. We should probably describe what that movie is about, huh?
Okay, sure.
10 Cloverfield Lane is about a woman who gets hit by a car while she's driving. She just had a fight with her boyfriend. Or is it husband? I don't remember. I think it's boyfriend.
I think it's boyfriend.
Yeah. Anyways, so she gets crashed into. She wakes up in an underground bunker handcuffed to like a rail on like a mattress. And there's a dude there, and there's another dude who doesn't want to be there, and the main dude in charge says, "Yo, you're in my safety, like, underground apocalypse bunker. The apocalypse is happening. You gotta stay here."
Yeah, you literally cannot leave because it is poisonous outside.
Yeah, the chemical warfare is going on right now. I have 2 pigs outside, and they're dead.
So there are some things right away about the guy who is saying this, played by John Goodman, by the way.
Who does a fantastic... Everyone in that movie does a good job, but
yeah.
He is... Oof.
There's a part early on in the movie where... Because she doesn't fucking believe him.
Yeah.
And she's asking him questions about, like, what happened, and he's like, I don't know, could be chemical warfare from all these other countries, or the fucking aliens could have finally shown up, you know, like...
Yeah.
So it's like, oh, fuck, this guy is not right in the head.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do we want to say the thing, or...
How in depth of spoilers should we go for 10 Cloverfield Lane?
Let's have a quick spoiler cut off. If you don't want to be spoiled, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, you're gonna get spoiled. It's fucking aliens!
It's fucking aliens about, mate!
Yeah.
So the one thing I love about the movie is that they do let you know within the, like, first 1/3 that he's right about the poison.
Yeah.
because that woman comes knocking on their door, and she almost opens it for her, and you can tell she's fucked up, and she starts dying.
Mm-hmm.
Which makes it, it's brilliant because it doesn't change the fact that she's in this situation with a man who is fucked up in the head.
Yeah.
Like, the fact that he's right and she can't leave doesn't mean that he's not also crazy and dangerous.
That, and also, like, there's a lot of, like, little, like, things that are fucked up about that whole thing, too, where the one that I always think of is she starts to remember more, like, was that crash an accident and he found me, or did he crash into me? And, like, just as she's starting to feel, like, trying to, like, work through those feelings, he talks to her, and he's like, hey, I have to confess, I accidentally hit you, and I didn't want to leave you for dead, so, like, I took you along, I'm sorry. And that starts to make her feel a little bit better, and it's like, you can see, like, those are, like, it's just a lot of tough emotions to walk through, and you can see her going through the process of, like, if he was a bad guy, would he really tell me that sort of shit? And, like, no, he actually, like, kidnapped and murdered some other girl. Like...
And, yeah, as an audience member, I feel like there are enough tells that like, the scene early on at the dinner where he's really weird about them joking around together and he gets in her face.
Yeah.
Like, that is not comfortable. And then also the dead giveaway for me, because I've known people that fucking talked like this, is when he's talking about his daughter and he says just offhand, like, yeah, but then her mother turned her against me.
Yeah, that's a big one too.
Yeah, but then you do get the scenes of them living kind of okay for a bit.
Yeah.
Playing board games, laughing, joking around.
Yeah.
Which I feel like that's important for that movie, too.
Yeah.
God, what an incredible film.
It's really good.
By far, like, leagues better than either the first or the third.
So I still haven't seen the third. I did get spoiled on how it ties in.
Okay, so...
But that's all I really know. I know it takes place in space, I guess.
Alright, so can we talk about the third movie?
Sure, let's go for it.
Let's go for it, man. It's so bad.
Tell me about the third movie and how schlocky it is.
It is a cheesy, low-budget sci-fi horror film. And I will admit that if you are into B horror movies, you'll probably get a kick out of it. Mm-hmm. It's not the worst thing I've ever seen. There are moments of it that are kind of okay.
Yeah.
But it is trashy, low quality. And its tone is so inconsistent. There are such stupid, wacky shenanigans.
Oh.
It tries to go for, like, gross out body horror a lot, but, like, it gets just so dumb and over the top, and, like, there's a severed hand that moves on its own.
Hell yeah.
Messages, like, it's so bad. And the way it ties in with the other Cloverfield movies is something that I kind of find interesting in, like, a really dumb way. So what do you know?
So I know that there's some multiversal bullshit going on, and like something, like some paradox or something that they do accidentally triggers the monster from 1 into, like, coming into existence, and the aliens from 2 to, like, come into existence as well.
So the thing about this movie that I've seen people talking about is I think there's an element of it that they miss.
Okay.
Because I've seen a lot of people say, like, oh, because they trigger that paradox, they accidentally pulled monsters from another dimension into our dimension. But that's not entirely it.
Okay.
Because that's true. But what people don't think about is the fact that this movie is set in the future. And the other 2 movies are set present day.
Mm-hmm.
And there is a single throwaway line at the beginning of the movie that explains this, where a man being interviewed by TV goes, yeah, this Cloverfield paradox that'll totally happen if they do this would shatter time and space and send monsters all throughout history.
Oh.
So that's what's happening throughout the series.
Nice.
So theoretically, the next Cloverfield movie could be set anywhere in time.
The Revolutionary War.
They could do it. We could get ancient Egypt aliens.
Yep.
God, but no, just ignore all that bullshit and watch 12 Cloverfield Lane.
Okay.
Well, not you.
I'll watch it again. Fuck it. Whew.
Anyway, that's our Cloverfield Power Hour.
Mm-hmm. So, it's time to talk. I'm not going to talk too much about because you'll want to get spoiled. I saw Black Panther.
How was it?
Very good. I liked that movie a lot. So, like, we talked a little bit last time or 2 podcasts ago, like, is it gonna go there? Without saying much, it goes there. Michael B. Jordan. So, I didn't realize Michael B. Jordan was even in the movie, despite, like, I watched all the trailers and shit. He plays the best MCU villain. Honestly, one of the best superhero villains I've ever seen in my life.
I've heard he's really good.
Really good, tragic backstory, everything you want in a villain. Like, it's one of those things where it's like, you kind of start to see, like, the world through his eyes for a bit, and you're like, I don't know if I want Black Panther to win. So it's really good. Everyone in it is great. The only thing that I have to say of that movie that I disliked, and honestly, so I've heard people talk about this with both Spider-Man and Guardians 2. I didn't realize it or like see it really in either of those films. But it's been kind of a thing where people have been talking about, man, ever since they went from 2 a year to like 3 a year, you can really tell that like the production time's getting like hastened up and the CGI isn't looking as good as it used to. And I always just thought that was people just like saying that, but like, man, there are rhinos that show up in this movie, and like at first they just kind of show up and I'm like, oh, those look bad and not real. And then they go away and I was like, oh, whatever. But then they show up again later on in like the final battle and like they're there a lot and I'm like, oh, those look really bad. So yeah, I do think it's probably something to do with like, man, these movies need to come out when they are scheduled to come out, you know?
Yeah.
So that's kind of a bummer, but hey, I can deal with bad CGI rhinos because the rest of that movie was really good. So yeah.
I really look forward to watching it.
Honestly, yeah, like you can see that like with the last few movies, they've loosened up the studio restrictions a bit in terms of like, hey, you know what? Maybe we should let directors have a little bit more like creative sway, and also too like I feel like you can kind of see the studio mandate that's like, okay, let's make villains that aren't just there to be beaten. Like, let's try to make our villains characters. And I think it finally completely pays off with this film. Because, like, Spider-Man and Guardians 2 had, like, shades of that, where it's like, okay, they're trying to, like, listen to the criticism a bit. But, like, this one, it's like, okay, this is really, like, this is one of the best movies in that entire franchise. Yeah. I'm very happy with it. Oh, actually, you know what? I gotta complain about something real quick. I didn't realize it until this film. I am retroactively more angry at Age of Ultron.
Interesting.
So,
because I hate Age of Ultron, so lay it on me.
So, because like, okay, I'm gonna say I've always said I think that film is painfully average. That's kind of my thing on it. I think it's a fine movie in the same way that like even like Ant-Man and like other MCU movies I don't really care about are fine in the sense that it's like you can turn it on and it's like inoffensive in my opinion. But the problem I always had with Age of Ultron is, Jesus Christ, you are packing in everything in the kitchen sink into this movie to set up like 18 others.
Yeah.
So, watching Black Panther, because in Age of Ultron, they set up Wakanda. They go to Wakanda, or I don't remember if they actually visit Wakanda in that one scene, but they set up Andy Serkis's Claw, and they talk about vibranium and, like, Wakanda and shit, and that's kind of your intro.
Well, and you get more in Civil War, too.
Yeah, and then in Civil War, Black Panther's, his, you know, a character, and that's where his introduction is and all that properly. So here's the thing with at least Age of Ultron. Black Panther itself reintroduces all of those elements and, like, acts as if you haven't seen Age of Ultron and doesn't really reference too much what happened in Age of Ultron. So, like, did we really need that? Like, I don't think we did. I think we could have just referenced in Age of Ultron, like, oh, vibranium from Wakanda, and the people who got it could have just gotten it. But, like...
Now...
Oh, carry on.
Can you also ignore Civil War in the same way?
No.
Okay.
No, that is the fact that, like, a certain someone in Black Panther's life died in that movie is a big part of the movie.
Okay.
So that one, yeah, actually, if you're gonna see Black Panther and you haven't seen Civil War yet, you should really do that. It adds a lot. The other thing is, so that line of thinking got me thinking. In Thor Ragnarok, Doctor Strange shows up for 5 minutes, and that was kind of was it, which movie was it? Was it Civil War that had that as the... No. At the end of Doctor Strange, they tease that, like, oh, Doctor Strange and Thor are gonna do something, and what that ends up being is in Thor Ragnarok, Doctor Strange shows up for 5 minutes and then, like, teleports Thor to a different place.
Yeah.
And, like, I can start to feel like, man, they don't know what they're doing.
You know what else?
What?
Remember that scene in Age of Ultron where Thor has to go on his vision quest to learn about the events of Apocalypse?
Yeah.
How that doesn't really matter or play into Apocalypse at all?
Yeah.
Or Ragnarok, sorry.
Yeah.
Like, that scene doesn't need to be in Age of Ultron at all.
Well, actually, because also, too, they set up, like, Thor's out there alone looking for Infinity Stones, and he didn't find any, and, like, that kind of doesn't matter anymore either. Like, so here's the thing that's frustrating to me. You can tell, because, like, there's people high up that have this storyline vision, and they're forcing directors, and a lot of them have kind of come out and said, we really don't want to do this always. Like, they're forcing them to seed in shit that will lead into the next few films. And if you're gonna do that, I would rather, if you're gonna make your directors go through that, maybe having kind of an idea of what the hell's going on. I don't know. But, like, it's... Now that we're kind of closer to the end of this arc, you know, it's like, oh, wow, like, you kind of had an end in sight, but, like, all of the, like, shit in the 3/4 mark, you really didn't know what the fuck you wanted, huh?
Yeah, it got messy for sure.
And maybe that is part of the thing where it's like, hey, we're gonna change the plans to let our directors have a little bit more control. Because I think Ant-Man was the big one where it's like, oh, God, this is just a fucking, like... That was the first one, I think, for me and a lot of other people, where it's like, this is just, oh, yep, it's a Marvel movie, you know? Yeah. And Edgar Wright would have made a much better movie. But yeah, Black Panther was good.
Good.
So, speaking of comics...
Yeah.
Let's talk about a comic book.
Let's talk about a comic book.
First time on WAFP, I think? Maybe?
Who knows?
I don't know.
Hey, this is the 25th episode, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. Happy birthday. We did it.
That was my birthday horn.
Yeah. So here's the cool part. Back in the Cathedral of Shadows days, I used to say, oh, we hit 25 episodes. That's a season. I don't want to fuck around with the RSS feed. Fuck it. Season 1's just gonna last until, like, we hit the max on our fucking feed limit.
Yeah, it's almost like we don't really need to have seasons.
Yeah. I mean, we do, because I don't feel like paying for the hosting with the setup I have right now for, like, the podcast. So once we get to episode 100, we're going to need to create a new RSS feed.
Yeah, 100, sure.
It'll take us, like, 10 years, but we'll get there. So,
Rasen, unless we kick this shit up to once a fucking week, we're not making it to episode 100.
I don't know. We could. So, Let's talk about The Long Halloween, which
Let's talk about The Long Fucking Halloween.
at least I'm pretty sure is the first comic book that like I've read like fully and I'm going to talk about here on this podcast. I've been talking a while about how like I want to give comics a shot because that's something as like a kid other people talked about and like just kind of a thing other people always enjoyed, but I was always like, I don't know how the fuck to get into this. This is, to be fair, the industry makes it very confusing to get into comic books.
Yeah, there's only like 3 reboots every year.
Yeah, and some reboots where people still remember things from the old continuity, so there's no point in rebooting. It's bullshit, and like I'm doing my best. But yeah, so
for what it's worth, that is a very easy entry point you picked.
That's what I want to talk about. So I've read other Batman stuff before. I read like the Frank Miller shit. I read
So the Bad Things.
Yeah. I even though Frank Miller is a batshit like crazy terrible human being, I still liked Year One and Dark Knight Returns.
I did not, but fair enough.
Yeah. No, I'm never gonna read that fucking All-Star Batman and Robin thing he wrote though, because I've seen the panels I need to see. That was yeah, no.
No, I just don't like Frank Miller's writing style to begin with.
Okay.
I think it's so up his own ass with it.
I mean, the political stuff is very on the nose. And that only gets worse the further you go in, and it's becoming more and more apparent that, like, him just being like, man, fuck the government becomes, man, fuck liberals. Yeah. Also, too, like, hey, that guy wasn't allowed to write a book where Batman beat up Muslims, so he made his own superhero so he could write a story about a superhero beating up Muslims.
Yeah.
Frank Miller's an asshole.
But Frank Miller did not write The Long Halloween.
No, which was written by Jeff Loeb. And is honestly a very good entry point into comics, because from what I understand, it's really not in the continuity, even.
No, it's kind of its own thing. But it's like basic enough that it's fine.
It's technically a sequel to Year One also, according to the start of the book, but like you don't need to read Year One.
No.
The only thing you need to know is, hey, do you know who the Batman characters are? Which, if you grew up,
you do,
you know.
If I say Harvey Dent, what comes to mind?
Yeah, like you get it. You know, you just need to. All that you need to know is like, oh, Commissioner Gordon's that guy, and Batman is, you know, Bruce Wayne's parents' cat. Like, if you know the basics, you can jump right in. Now, from what I understand, Begins and Dark Knight took a lot from Long Halloween, and I could.
Fuck yeah, they did.
I can see it.
I mean, they took direct lines and scenes.
Yeah, I believe in Harvey Dent.
I mean, like, hey, if you're someone that has watched The Dark Knight a lot, there are exact lines and panels from The Long Halloween and The Dark Knight.
So I guess I should probably describe what The Long Halloween is for people that don't know.
Go for it.
It all starts one Halloween, and someone kills the nephew of Carmine. Is it Carmine or Carmen? Carmine Falcone, which also
Carmine Falcone.
Okay, so
depending on, at least that's how Gotham says it.
Okay, so I want to say something. I fucking hate the mob bosses' names in all of these stories. Like, I am waiting for Mario Fettuccine to fucking show up in the next page, you know? Like there's a point where like they're fucking like there's a flashback where they're talking about like, yeah, Luigi's a monster, man, and it's like, you just fucking use, like, oh my god, like, it's the most, like, on the nose, like, yeah, we're gonna go fucking Italian mobster, like, to the point.
Italian mafia, but not.
Yeah, and it's so, and, like, they go out of their way to, like, write their diction with the accents and stuff, and it's like, oh god, this is, like, oh. But anyways, so yeah, Carmine Falcone.
Carmine Falcone.
Carmine.
I'm pretty sure I've heard Falcone too.
Because I feel like it should be Falcone, but whatever. Carmine Falcone's.
Well, I mean, these fucking shows and movies all pronounce it differently.
Okay.
Well, Falcone's also in The Dark Knight, I'm pretty sure. Or is it Batman Begins?
I think he's in Begins.
So that's the thing. In one of them, Falcone is in it, and then in the other, Maroni's in it.
Yeah. So Falcone's nephew gets murdered when he's taking a bath. And then more murders keep happening. And it turns out that there's a serial killer named Holiday striking, and he only ever kills people during holidays. Not to be confused with Calendar Man, who is also in this story.
In the comic.
Yes, and is a man who also only commits crimes during holidays. So the gimmick of it, too, was it was told over 13 issues, and they were released monthly. Which I actually want to say, I tend to be someone who, when there's a big serialized thing, I like to binge watch stuff or binge read or binge play or whatever, just get it all over with, do it at once, because, you know, a lot of the time stories have foreshadowing, at least if they're good, and you want that fresh in your mind for when the next thing comes around.
Yeah.
Twin Peaks is, I think, actually really bad with it, because, hey, there are things in those early episodes that don't, like, matter until halfway through season 2. And I can't imagine remembering those details if I hadn't have watched it over the course of, like, a couple months, you know? Like, watching that, like, a year and a half later, I would have never known, you know? I think this is the first thing that will come to mind for me where I feel like this works better actually reading, like, one issue a month. And there's a few reasons for that. The first is that this is like a murder mystery, or like it's a mystery. I wouldn't say like murder mystery, but like it's a noirish mystery thing where a lot of like the smaller details, like there's not much like small details and evidence. It's more of like a character drama that's easy to remember, like month to month, I would say. Also, every fucking issue of that comic book, there are bubbles that are like, yeah, Falcone, the untouchable crime lord of Gotham. Wayne Manor, my father's house. Like, they reintroduce every issue, different places and people, using the same phrases every time, as if it's been a month since you read the last issue.
So, I want to establish, by the way, that I have read this, in case it wasn't obvious.
Yeah.
I actually own the physical book of it.
Mm-hmm.
And it was also one of the earlier comic books that I bought and physically owned.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been a while since I read it, so I didn't even remember that they did that.
Also, I think reading it back to back, so the gimmick is that, like, every issue after the first basically is like, oh, this issue takes place on Christmas Day, this one takes place on New Year's Day, Valentine's Day, like, etc., etc. The plotting of that book gets really weird if you start to mentally put together when things are happening, where it's like, okay, you waited an entire month to investigate this guy? Like, wow. Like,
hey man, he's busy.
Yeah, you know, like
shit's happening.
Like, but there's also like there's like an issue where like the police want to go talk to Bruce Wayne, and then 2 months later they go to arrest Bruce Wayne, and they act like they've been like not able to get in touch with him the entire time. Like, just for 2 months, the police were like, well, we keep showing up to Bruce Wayne's house, he's not there. Like, it gets really fucking funny. And, like, just, there's some other things, too, where, just the fact that so much is happening on, like, Valentine's Day. It's, because, like, they'll be like, Valentine's Day morning, Valentine's Day mid-afternoon, Valentine's Day night, and it's like there's a lot going on, but only on these specific days. Do you remember the April Fool's Day one? I want to spoil that one because it's good, and also
it's been a long time. I don't really remember a lot.
So April Fool's Day is the only month where there isn't a killing because because the Riddler gets stuck in an alleyway with Holiday, and Holiday shoots and misses on purpose and goes April Fools.
I remember now.
And that's so stupid, but it's so fucking good. There is one other thing I have to say. when I finished it, I was very confused because that ending did not make sense to me. And I didn't realize till I looked up people talking about it online later that that ending is supposed to be ambiguous.
Yeah.
I just thought I missed something. And maybe that's not great, but also maybe that's just me being a dumbass. But basically what happens is there are multiple people that could be the killer or responsible for different murders, and they never tell you who does what. And to be honest, I don't know if the person, like, or the people who wrote it know either. But overall, I thought it was really good. I liked it.
Well, I mean, there is an answer that is an answer enough, I think.
Okay, like, should we just go to spoilers?
Sure.
Okay. What do you think the answer is?
Well, I mean, again, it's been a long time, but don't they at least openly say who started the killings and why?
Yes, but also there's a thing. So there's the son who faked his own death. And then it goes, "Oh, maybe Harvey Dent was actually responsible and in on this." But we know that he was the last holiday killing, but they leave it ambiguous if he was responsible for any of the previous ones. And then the final few pages are, "Oh, his wife actually
Yeah.
was in on it."
Well, doesn't his wife say she started it? That's what I remember.
Yeah. But here's the thing. So, like, it's weird because she claims, though, that she stopped because then she knew Harvey was doing the rest of the work. So, like, there's, like, contradictions and, like, things that don't make sense any way you cut it, kind of.
Yeah.
The one
But at the very least, she started it for sure, right?
I think so. I think that's the idea. There is one thing that was kind of, like... So, one thing that I will say is, like, how... Because, like, the final speech that the son gives is him being like, "Oh, you never wanted me around, and no one even knows who the fuck I am. Now everyone's gonna know that I was the holiday killer." And when you put that in contrast to, like, all the other stories, it's like, oh, he'd confess to them even if he didn't do it because he's obsessed with being known. And, like, hey, people do that in real life all the time, you know? So, yeah. Also, but, like, then there's stuff, too, where, like, there was one... So, the very first murder... there's a line right after where Harvey says something like, "Oh, yeah, like, I don't even get why we're here," or, like, "Dude, like, the dude deserved to die," and Batman and Gordon are like, "What the fuck are you on?" Like, you know, like, and they kind of tease, like, "Oh, maybe he wasn't on it," but, yeah. It was good, but, like, it was just a thing we're reading, and at the end I was like, wait, I'm trying to piece it together what happened, and then it's like, oh, okay, there's supposed to be some confusion that's intentional, so I was like, okay, I guess I'm just dumb. I know that there's apparently a sequel called Dark Victory?
There is.
Is it good?
I also own it physically.
Okay.
Have never read it.
Okay.
Maybe we should both read it before the next podcast.
Yeah, that'll be fun. But yeah, that was good. I also have Court of the Owls, which I have really, like, I've heard good things about that one over the years, and I have a friend who was just like, hey, it's a good one to start with. I think that's, like, the first one of, like, the new 52 thing they did, right?
Yeah, it's alright.
Okay, I want to check that out at some point.
It's good. It's not bad. It didn't do it for me in the same way it did for a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
There are really good moments in it, though.
Okay. I want to start reading Saga, just because I've heard fantastic things.
Yeah.
But I got another comic book to talk about, and it ain't The Crow.
Okay, let's fucking go. Hold on, I need to drink some iced tea for this.
Okay.
Go on.
So, Zach, I was on Comixology the other day, about to go in for another session of reading The Long Halloween, and I saw, recommended for you, Bloodborne issue 1. And I went, huh. I didn't know that Bloodborne had a comic book tie-in. And then I realized, wait a minute, this came out like 3 days ago.
Yep.
There is a 2018 motherfucking Bloodborne comic adaptation happening.
Okay, so before you start talking about this comic, I want to say something.
Okay.
I was not convinced that Shadows Die Twice teaser was Bloodborne 2.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone was like, oh, it's Bloodborne 2. Look at the art style. Look at the trick weapon-like thing. But I was like, I don't know. There's like an Asian-Japanese theme going on here. It could be something else. And then I noticed something.
Mm-hmm.
In 2018, we have gotten a Bloodborne comic book. Sony has pushed out an official Bloodborne plush and Tokaku whatever
figure thing,
figure thing as part of their like PlayStation line. There's a bunch of Bloodborne stuff coming into GameStop all of a sudden. Oh, there's gonna be a Bloodborne fucking 2.
And also, according to the guy who is the main writer for this book, this is supposed to reveal some of the mysteries of the base game.
Fuck off.
Yep. I don't know. So here's the thing, though, too. I feel like they said that for the one that was a tie-in for Dark Souls 3 as well, and it actually didn't. So
was that the horrible Dark Souls comic with the angry Solaire?
Yep.
Oh God.
And
is this written by the same guy?
I don't think it's the same guy, but I do think it's the same. I think it's the same artist. Who, to be fair, I actually liked the art. I think it captured Bloodborne aesthetic very well. I don't think it's the same dude writing it, though.
All right.
And actually, too, is kind of funny, because at the end of the book, like, at the end of issue 1, he has a thing where he's like, man, I played 200 hours of Bloodborne to get prepared for this. That was the best 200s of pre-work in my life, or something like that. So, Bloodborne issue 1 is not about a lot. So you get the generic hunter man, who literally is just the Bloodborne hunter guy that's on the cover art, goes into Yharnam, and he meets up with a bunch of, like, hunters in the city, in Old Yharnam, specifically, and they're talking, and one of the Old Yharnam villagers is like, hey, this is the child you're looking for, and it's this very pale, like, kid, and he cuts his, I think what happens, it is very confusing. There's a lot going on. But, like, I think the hunter's being chased, and then he meets up with the old Yharnam people. And the old Yharnam guy's mad because he's like, oh, they're just villagers. Even though they're trying to kill you, they're infested by the plague or whatever. You can't just kill them willy-nilly. Kind of like the dude in the, with the Gatling gun, you know?
Yeah.
And then he shows the hunter this child and cuts the child's arm, and the blood is white, and the old Yharnam guy's like, this is what you're looking for. You're looking for pale blood, right?
Fuck.
Yeah.
Fuck.
And the hunter's like, yeah. And then they hear noise outside, and everyone's like, okay, kid, go hide. Another attack's coming. And all the villagers and Hunter Man go out into the fucking street, and Cleric Beast is there. And then Cleric Beast kills the hunter. And then the next page is the hunter waking up in the hunter's dream. And the doll's like, oh, welcome back. Also, too, the last panel of that one page is literally the black with red font, you died. And then the doll's like, oh, welcome back, hunter. And the hunter's like, oh, I need to go back and get that kid. And then the hunter leaves, and then it's a conversation of Gehrman and fucking doll talking, and Gehrman's like, oh, if only we could wake up. And then the hunter goes back and, like, finds the kid in the same building, and the kid looks kind of confused, which, to be fair, yeah. And the hunter's like, hey, kid, we're gonna go on a journey, and then it ends.
Okay. So, there's a lot to unpack here.
Yeah, there is.
Okay, so Gehrman being present.
Yeah.
This is a non-canon adaptation trying to put more story into the story of Bloodborne.
Yes, so also
it can't be a sequel.
So here's one thing. It could be New Game Plus, because there is a villager who references something about, like, cycles of time or something, and how, like, we keep living.
Fuck,
Yeah.
it could be after the ending where the hunter wakes up.
Yeah.
It could be after the ending where the hunter wakes up and Gehrman stays.
Because they say something like, oh, we keep having to live this again and again, or something. And it's like, oh. And they reference specifically, like, cycles or something, and I was like, oh, it's
That's
a New
more
Game Plus thing.
Dark Soulsy than I would like it to be.
Yeah, I kind of thought that too. I don't think that works as well with... So here's what I would have done in that case. Make it so that it's not Gehrman, it's the hunter. You know, and have the main character be some completely different dude. That would have been cool.
That would have been great.
Yeah. Like, just the shot up, it's like, oh, it's Gehrman. Oh, no, it's not. It's the player character. That would have been awesome.
Yeah, with, like, the weird green alien face everyone gave him.
Hell yeah.
Purple hair.
Mm-hmm.
No, but it could be Gehrman if it follows the ending where Gehrman stays and the hunter wakes up.
Yeah.
And that even works in the sense of, like, that's the ending where it's like, well, this is gonna just continue.
Yeah.
Like, you got away, but the hunt will happen again.
Yeah.
But fucking Pale Blood, and literally, too.
Yep.
I always took Pale Blood to be a little bit more symbolic.
Yeah, that's kind of what I thought. I'm like, oh, nope, just a Pale Blood kid, okay. So, yeah.
Well, I guess we're gonna see what happens when he transcends the hunt.
Yep, it's gonna be a... Oh, God, and they say that, like, 4 times in the fucking issue, too.
No, of course they do.
Well,
because transcending the hunt, in my mind, was always, like, becoming the god.
Yeah.
And, like, Pale Blood, to me, was, like, the umbilical cords.
Mm-hmm.
Seek Pale Blood to transcend the hunt, you know?
The teaser image for the next issue is them walking through that, like, kind of cemetery. You know, like, kind of that, like, little hollow grove place where, like, it's right outside where you fight the witches?
Yes.
Yeah, it's
I have that game memorized.
Yeah, it's them walking down that road. The kid and the hunter. So it's like, oh, that'll be issue 2. I think it's going to be 5 issues all said and done. I'm going to keep reading it because I'm curious.
I'll probably read it because I am also curious. And I swear... I have never been more convinced that Bloodborne 2 is on its way.
Yeah, because, like, I was thinking that, too, where I'm like, why a Bloodborne comic adaptation now? And like you said, like, I was kind of thinking, like, man, they have seemed to kind of been pushing Bloodborne recently.
Very recently.
Like,
okay, so the Toitaku thing that they're doing, I could believe, like, okay, well, that's they're mining for any Bloodborne. Well, mining for any Bloodborne. They're mining for any Sony exclusive things.
Because it is like one of 10 things.
Yeah.
But also too, like, the plush, and there's been other things too.
The official Sony plush, the comic book, on top of the trailer that had a trick weapon looking thing.
Yeah.
All right, it's Bloodborne 2. Let's go. Which I'm down with.
Yeah, same.
I don't think it needs it. I think Bloodborne stands on its own really well. But as long as Bloodborne 2 brings something fresh to the table and isn't just more of the same, I'm so down.
Yeah. So. Let's move on from comics to video games. See what I did? I had a video game comic. Now I'm leading into video games from comics.
Oh, this works grossly well.
Yeah, see? I did it on purpose. I typed the list out the way I did because of this.
Yeah, Marvel, like comic book movie to transition from movie
Hell
to
yeah, I
comic
did.
book.
I did it all on purpose. I'm a genius. Anyways.
Well, I'm glad I interrupted with the Cloverfield thing before Black Panther then. Yeah. So it still works.
Yeah, exactly. See, we're masters of podcasting. Welcome to episode 25.
Welcome.
So, let's talk about Battlefield 1. Let us, as in you, have hot takes on Battlefield 1.
Rasen, I'll admit, there was a moment, because you've been playing this, and you were playing it in a Skype call the other day, and you seemed to be having a good time.
I was having a very good time.
I had a moment where I was looking at my job today, because I was at it. You know that game would cost me like $9 to buy, right?
Yeah.
I almost bought it. Just because I was like, I could go for a fun shooter, and then I changed my mind.
Yeah.
So, tell me, did I make the right call or not?
So, that's the thing. Just knowing you as a friend, I don't know if I could recommend Battlefield 1 to you, honestly. I don't know. I don't know if it'd be your type of game. But
Yeah.
I mean, if you want to fucking like try it out, I'd be down. So I've been doing this thing with Battlefield games ever since. So I bought 3, and 3 was the first big one where they're like,
Yeah.
"Hey, we want this to be the Call of Duty rival series." And with that came a lot of expansions, because their thing was, we don't believe in doing yearly games. We're gonna do one game and have like 5 expansion packs for it. And the problem came with me is like I bought Battlefield 3 and I kind of got bored with it kind of fast, and I was like, oh, and I just kept waiting for the expansions, and then I'd play it for a little bit more, and I was kind of like, eh. And just on top of that, Battlefield 3 is not a very good shooter. It was very disappointing after Bad Company 2. So I didn't buy Hardline, partially because of that, and also because, like, Ferguson was happening at the time, and I just wasn't in the mood. So I skipped out on that. I ended up buying 4, like, a year and a half after it was out, because they had, like, a $20 thing that was like, hey, you get the Battlefield Premium service, which is, like, you get some extra in-game goodies and shit, and all of the DLC and the base game all for $20. And I'm like, that's a good-ass deal. And I played Battlefield 4 for, like, a solid 3 months, and that was a really fun time. And I was like, I'm just gonna do this for now on. I don't need these games for $60 when they first come out. I'm just gonna wait for them to go on sale with, like, a bunch of shit with them. So the last, I think, Battlefield 1 expansion just came out, like, a few weeks ago. And they had that game on sale with everything for $20. And I was like, fuck it, time to go again. That is a very good video game. This is where I'll go with it. It is like 90 gigs, which is upsetting, but like, it looks great. It plays great. They kind of bullshit the World War I thing a little bit, because there's like a lot of like really fast shooting guns and stuff, and they're like, oh, you probably should have just made this a World War II thing.
Boots on the ground, trench warfare.
So here's the thing. Sometimes they do that really well, though. There's enough World War I isms where I'm like not entirely like, you should have just done World War II. But there's a lot of dumb bullshit where it's like, oh, this was like a mounted machine gun that you're just like, no, people can just run around with this and shoot it. Like, there's some historical, like liberties taken with the weaponry being used. Apparently the campaign has like a problem where it's like, oh, use this really cool gun that like 4 of them were actually made in real life because it actually sucked really hard, and they were like, we should never make this again. There's a lot of stuff like that, apparently. Actually, let me talk about the campaign real quick, because I played the prologue mission, because that's like the campaign is the thing you get for that game when you are downloading it and it's not fully downloaded. So I played the prologue mission, which is, I think, the most like, oh, this was almost cool thing I've played in a while, because you don't play as any like specific character. You play as a, like, so the game starts and it's like, the following game is based off of World War I, and then they're giving you some context of the battle you're fighting, and then it just, like, ends with you are not expected to survive. And you start firing, and it becomes very clear, like, oh, I don't have enough ammo, and a bunch of people are coming at me. And then you get overrun, and you watched all your friends die, and then you die, and then it cuts to the name, like, John Smith lived to age 24, and then the camera zooms out from your character's body, goes back down like the landscape a little bit, and then you float into another body. And then you watch as the position you were previously defending as the other guy gets overtaken. Everyone goes, oh shit, guys, get ready, they're coming. And then you fail that defense again, and then it cuts to like, Paul Watson lived to age 35, and it just keeps happening, and you just keep having this cycle of like, oh, like, we just can't win here, and like, you just have to watch everyone die in front of you, and then just get ready, because like, the swarm of people are coming. And it's almost really effective. The problem is that on the later waves, they give you more ammo, and if you're good at shooters, it lasts way longer than they are, like, they probably intended.
So the pacing gets killed a little bit. Also, the narration at the end is terrible because it's like, the world was the war. The war was the world. Criminals are heroes. We all learned something about ourselves during that time. And it's like, oh, it's a little on the nose.
On both sides.
Yeah, basically. And it ends with a scene too where there's like, oh, there's one soldier left from both sides, and they aim their guns at each other, and they slowly are like, this isn't worth it, and then they walk away. And it's
Fuck
like,
off.
yeah. It's the most like ham-fisted cliched thing, and it's like, because like when it was just like, you're just gonna play as a bunch of dudes that don't matter and you're just gonna die and watch all your friends die, I was like, that's rad. But then they make it this big dramatic thing beyond that. I'm like, don't do this. But okay, so I'm gonna talk real quick about some of the modes here, because you got the two Battlefield basics, which are Conquest, which is just, hey, you have a giant map, you have like 4 to 7 points that you need to control, and you just capture like you would like an Overwatch, like control territory or whatever.
Well, thank you for confirming that I'm not gonna buy this game.
Oh.
You're right, it's not for me.
Okay. The second mode is Rush, which is another Battlefield classic, where you have two objectives that the attacking team needs to run to and the defending team needs to defend. Once the attacking team blows up those objectives, the map expands, and the defending team has to fall back to defend more objectives, and that goes on for like 3 more times. And it's either like, either the attackers run out of lives to try, because like attackers have limited lives and they need to like blow up all like 6 or whatever of the objectives until then, or like the defenders run the timeout. Or the attackers win by blowing up all the objectives. And that's always cool because it's like, oh, the map starts out really small, and you move across this giant map. Like, there's a real sense of progression as you, like, continue on in the match. So, both of those are fun. But they added a new mode called, like, I actually don't remember what the mode is. I think it's called Frontlines. And it's this...
Hardlines.
No, they did not. But it's kind of supposed to be like, hey, this is our World War I gimmick mode. And it actually works really well, because what you have is you have a line. And sometimes it's like a straight line, sometimes it's a zigzag. And you have to control... Like basically, you have to take control of points in sequence. So, like, say there's flags A, B, C, D, and E. The game will start, and then one team will take A, the other will take E, one team will take B, the other will take D, and then they both have to fight over C, and then whoever gets C, like say the first team gets C, then they have to take D, then they have to take E, and then after they like take all of the points, they have to destroy the enemy's base. But the other team can, of course, take their own objectives back that they lost, so it becomes like a tug-of-war type thing, where you literally just need to control everything and make charges for specific points that are contested. And what this really comes down to is most of the match is people fighting over the middle of the map so they can finally make the push. And because Battlefield's big thing is destructible environments, the middle of the map is a fucking hell zone about 10 minutes into the match. It's really effective at communicating, like, oh, this is what trench warfare was, huh? Because, like, yeah, we're just gonna fight forever for taking this one village. Okay, we got the village. Now we can start playing the game. Like, it's really fucking brutal. Also, too, like, the maps are really well designed, where like a lot of those maps actually have like underground tunnels and corridor systems and stuff. And like a lot of the grenades in that game are like, oh, it's a like flammable grenade that'll just like makes like part of the map go on fire, and like you're gonna basically die if you walk into that. Or also there are just gas grenades where, hey, put your gas mask on. Guess what? When you have your gas mask on, you're not suffocating, but you can't see shit. So like, it really actually gets a lot of the World War I isms across really well. Aside from, like, oh, there's a lot of automatic weaponry and shit going around. They added in horses. So, like, if you want to, you can just be like, fuck it, give me a horse. and just run around on a horse and try to dodge tank fire is really weird. But it is a very good game. If you like strategic shooters, that's a good one. But yeah, that's all I gotta say on Battlefield. I'll probably keep playing it, but I probably won't have much to talk about next time around. So that's really my spiel on it. But I've also been playing Monster Hunter World, which is another fun multiplayer experience.
Which I feel like should be the point in a podcast where if I was a good human being, I'd go, well, I could talk with you about this one at least. But no. Yeah,
you're not a Monster Hunter boy.
I'm not a Monster Hunter boy. And hey, I feel like I've tried enough now.
So
there was an episode early on where we got a question that was like, what's something you wished you liked but can't? And I said Monster Hunter. And that remains true, because I tried the demo for Monster Hunter World, and I understand that it's good, but I just don't like it.
Okay. So, I've been playing Monster Hunter World. I beat low rank the other day, which basically Monster Hunter's kind of divvied up into tiers where it's like, hey, there's low rank, and that's kind of like the main story of the game and also the tutorial. There's high rank, which is more story, but that's kind of like the true core game, quote unquote. That being said, low rank took me like 33 hours to beat. Which like is about normal. You'll hear anywhere from like 25 to 40 hours to beat low rank. But high rank is kind of like, hey, this is where the game begins, where you start to get equipment that has a lot of stuff going on. Like, you're not just like upgrading your armor and like making the defense numbers go higher. You need to start thinking about your loadouts more and like what passive skills do you want your armor to have, and like kind of figuring out that part of the game more. So it's basically like, okay, we're taking the training wheels off sort of thing. Like, you have to really do some planning shit now. This is the first Monster Hunter I've actually gotten out of low rank for. I put about like 20 hours into 4U, and I liked that game a lot, but my main problem with that game was, hey, it's on the 3DS. And similarly, I put quite a few hours into Try and 3U, but my problems with those games were, hey, it's on the Wii, / hey, it's on the Wii U. I'm finally happy to just have one of these fucking games with a normal-ass controller loadout. It's so nice after all these years. I do want to go back at some point to 4U and 3U and play them properly, but, like, it's just a thing where it's like, man, I don't want to play this on the Wii U or the 3DS, you know? I will say, Monster Hunter World, for anyone who's like wants to give Monster Hunter a chance and you think maybe this is a thing that you might be able to get into, World is the perfect place to start. It's kind of funny because like people, like the big thing that like everyone thought was like, oh man, they're gonna dumb it down, they're gonna like make it like the loot based, like heavily monetized like Borderlands or Diablo or like Destiny thing. They super didn't. They just made it a lot more accessible. And ironically, because a lot of people seem to be, like, disappointed in Destiny 2, you're actually seeing a lot of people being like, fuck it, I'm getting Monster Hunter, which is really weird. But it's really great. You do get some people, it seems like, in the community that are kind of mad because, like, they took out a lot of, like, the manual crafting. Actually, that's one of my favorite parts of the game is, in the other games, you had to go gather resources, and then you went into your menu and you crafted the shit you needed to craft. A lot of that is automated now, where you can set it up, and to be fair, you can turn it off if you want to play like you did, like, back in the day. But basically, by default, if you pick up some, like, herbs, they will just auto-craft into a potion as soon as you pick them up. And that saves so much time, it is incredible. And, like, you can do that with any item in the game that's craftable. You can say, as soon as I get all of the items to craft one, just do it for me. And it's so fucking nice. The tutorials are probably the best in the series, which is good because Monster Hunter is very obtuse. That being said, there's still a lot of things that you're probably going to need to look up, like YouTube videos or like online like wiki guides for, which is kind of a shame. Some of the so back in the day though, a lot of like the drop rates and monster like weaknesses and resistances and stuff were things you just had to look up online or kind of feel out. They basically added an in-game compendium wiki thing where you can just look up a monster, and if you fought it enough, it'll be like, oh yeah, they're weak to lightning, or they resist, like, fire, or that sort of thing. So there's just a lot of convenience features like that. It's really good. It is exactly what I want out of a game of this type, where, like, it's driven by your want to get more gear, but also there is a skill component to it where even if you have the cool gear that will let you take down the enemy, if you don't know how that enemy acts and you don't have a good handle on their moveset, you still have a good chance of losing. The one story I will leave with is me, Matt, Trick, and Johnson, all people you've heard on this podcast before, we're playing around in like a free expedition mode where you can just kind of go around and dick around and hunt things. And we went to hunt Diablos, which is this, like, the strongest monster of that type in the area you find him in. And we just kept dying over and over, and eventually we just whittled him down and killed him. The problem is that because we're in the free expedition mode, it's like, okay, yeah, we managed to take him down and kill him. But in real actual hunts where you have to sign up for a mission and be like, I want to kill this monster, you only get 3 deaths before you lose the mission. And we died like 9 times, like just as a whole unit. So, sure enough, like a day after we did that as like a fun joke thing, I got the mission that was like, okay, go hunt this guy. And I was doing it alone. And I just had to take my knowledge that I had from when all 4 of us were fighting it, combined with my better gear that I crafted in preparation for the fight. And I just had this really rewarding, like, situation where, like, I barely managed to beat this monster, like, when I was on, like, the last chunk of health on my, like, 3rd life. And just, like, the combination of, like, my gear, like, all of my preparation, and just my knowledge of how this monster reacts and, like, how to dodge it and how to get it stuck in the environment, just managed to, like, pull me through. And it's just so satisfying. It's a great game. I highly recommend Monster Hunter World. It's probably going to be in my top 3 games this year. I'm going to spend so much more time with that. Yeah, it's Monster Hunter World.
Yeah. I really wish that I could help you out and ask questions and talk about it, but I just can't, so...
It's okay.
You started talking about low rank and high rank, and oh god.
Yeah, there's a lot. Though there is one thing I will say is for all the accessibility that game like does have compared to all of the other entries, and even like For You, the second to last 3DS one we got, was kind of previously known as like, oh, this is the one to start the series off with. This is even better than that in this regard. But there's still a lot of stuff that I'm like, okay, I feel like you should explain some of this more in the actual game, though. The UI is kind of a nightmare still, which is a shame. It's better than it used to be, but it's still pretty rough. I wouldn't mind a Monster Hunter World 2 in a few more years to even, like, smooth it out more, but they do, it seems like they're planning to support content for this thing for a long while, which is nice, so... Yeah.
Yep.
I think it's time to move on now to the Legacy of Goku.
Yes, sure.
Okay, so remember that time I made a video, probably not, but also, remember that time I made a video where I played no, I didn't play Secret of Mana, actually, that is a fucking lie. I played Seiken Densetsu, which is the game before Secret of Mana. And at the end of that video, I was like, yeah, here's the games I'm playing right now I'll probably make videos on. Legacy of Goku was not one of those. But because I was in Dragon Ball mood, I was like, hey, let's check out Legacy of Goku. That's a Dragon Ball Z Game Boy Advance RPG, and I could make a fun I can't speak. RPG rewind video on it. That was a mistake. That game is very bad. Oof. Zach, how much do you know about the Legacy of Goku?
So I've played it.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Okay, you know.
But it's been a long time.
Okay.
So my memory is faded slightly.
Okay.
But I have played it.
And specifically one, because there is a Legacy of Goku 2, and that's
Yeah.
apparently a good game.
I have played both of them.
Okay.
They were among the first games that I emulated when I got my own computer. Like, cause it was like, I can emulate Game Boy and Game Boy Advance. Yeah.
So I got a few things to say. The first is, oh my god, that game did not need to be an RPG. Like, holy shit, actually, like, no, having levels and stats actively makes that game worse. Two, whoever was like, yeah, let's tell the Frieza saga exclusively through the point of view of Goku.
I know!
That does not work on any level.
The whole point, like, Dragon Ball is at its best when Goku's not fucking there.
And, like, so, like, you get, like, oh, hi, Yamcha, for, like, 4 scenes, and he's not relevant ever again because you never follow him. And, like, it's so disjointed and so bad. The combat is terrible. There is no reason to do melee combat in that game because if you, like, enemies are too deadly. The random dinosaurs and snakes on the overworld map will kill Goku in 3 bites.
Hell yeah, they will.
So just do Kai blasts all the fucking time. All the time. It's rough. It's really bad.
Well,
the AI is terrible.
Don't spoil too. Are you still gonna make your video?
Yeah.
Don't spoil too much.
I won't. I just need to fucking vent because fuck.
Vent. But I'm looking forward to this video.
Okay. Oh, there's a lot going on with that game that makes me upset.
Yeah, when you said you were doing it, I got excited because I have very, very mixed memories of that game.
I legitimately will I think it might be in the top 5 worst RPGs I've played in my life. It's bad. Yeah, that's the thing. But, like, I'm curious because apparently 2 and the 3rd game are really good. So I need to see.
It's weird because they all kind of blur together in my head. I don't remember them being all that much better.
People really hold up 2 and 3, so I want to give at least 2 a try, but, like...
Yeah.
So here's the thing that I will say. I looked up the developer's website, which, first of all, looks like it hasn't been updated since Legacy of Goku came out. And hey, they're still an active developer. They make, like, edutainment games and shit for mobile now. But a few months ago, actually, I think it was, like, a few years ago, actually, on their Facebook page, they started posting mock-ups for Dragon Ball Z Legacy of Goku 4. And I don't think they have any permission or any agreement that they were gonna make this. They just started throwing out mock-ups, and then they're talking like, alright guys, would you want to see a Legacy of Goku 4 based off of, like, new material? Would you want to see a remake of Legacy of Goku 1 through 3? And, like, all this other stuff. And there was actually a post that made me laugh a little bit, because it's like, would you want to see us go back and fix the problems of Legacy of Goku 1? And I'm like, oh, they know. Yeah, so maybe that series isn't dead.
Oh. Can you imagine if they announced, like, Legacy of Goku 4 for Nintendo Switch?
So here's the thing where I was reading the post and I was just going through it in awe, like, is this fucking happening? Keep in mind they haven't said anything since, like, regarding that in years, and, like, I have a feeling it's probably not happening. But the one thing I saw that was like, maybe I could see it, is they were like, yeah, imagine playing Legacy of Goku 4 on iPhone or Android. And I was like, yeah, you know, like,
yeah.
That would be a place to shove that in. So, also they talked about, like, maybe we could have, like, a VR mode or something. I was like, fuck off. Yeah. No, Legacy of Goku is bad. Never play it. Speaking of Goku,
Yeah, speaking of Goku.
I need to give a shout out to my new favorite the best podcast of 2018.
Other than this one.
Yes. So
We're
Zach,
number one.
yeah, of course we are. We're so good. We're so quality. I started listening to a new Giant Bomb podcast by the names of All Systems Goku. Now, Zach, do you know who Jeff Gerstmann is?
I've heard the name.
You've heard the name. He is known for two things. One, he's known for giving The Legend of Zelda Twilight Princess the ludicrous score of 8.8 and causing the Zelda fan base to like send him death threats and all sort of nasty shit because he had the audacity to say that Twilight Princess was an 8.8 out of 10 video game. And also the guy who I'm pretty sure, I actually don't remember what position he was in, but he was a reviewer for GameSpot. And GameSpot had a advertising deal where they were shilling the hell out for Kane and Lynch 2 Dog Days. And Jeff Gerstmann was the man assigned to review that game, and he thought that game was shit. To be fair, that game is shit. So he gave it a bad review, and he basically got fired because he gave the game that was, like, being advertised on the site and, like, paying for the site to be up, basically a bad review.
I remember that happening.
That was
like
a big scandal.
Yeah, that was the beginning of a lot of internet people being like, I don't know if I trust these major websites anymore.
Yeah. To be fair, GameSpot's been a lot better since then. So, Jeff Gerstmann...
I like that you're emphasizing spot so you don't actually say stop.
Hey, because I'm gonna be real, as a kid, I constantly confused the two.
And I love that I could tell that's why you were doing it.
Yeah. So, Jeff Gerstmann went on to make a site you've probably heard of if you're, like, listening. If you know of us, you probably have heard of Giant Bomb. They're one of the biggest game journalist outlets right now.
Rasen brand.
Yes. So,
check out Backdoor VHS Shop.
Hell yeah. We still need to decide on a second movie for that. We'll figure it out. Anyways, so Giant Bomb, they're a site that Jeff Gerstmann started, and a bunch of like other like former GameSpot people that kind of left around either got fired or left around the same time. I can't honestly remember. There's a whole history you can read up on. But one of the other people that work at that site is Dan Ryckert. Dan Ryckert is a man who I have a lot of respect and like. I generally dig Dan a lot as a human being, but for the love of God, Dan is a man that you look at him and you're like, if this guy can get through life, there's no excuse for me not. Like, I'm gonna link in the description a Dan Ryckert story where he talks about his first time trying to make egg whites, where he thought that egg whites were made by melting down the shells of eggs. He is just a very interesting man. He's done a lot of good work, but he's also just a guy that has so many stories of like, you don't understand how to live life. It's really bad. There's a really great segment on the Giant Beast cast, which is the Giant Bomb Eastern Shore, East Coast. I don't know why I said shore. East Coast podcast, where they're trying to explain to Dan how D&D works, and he just doesn't get it. And like he basically can only understand D&D through like, oh, so it's kind of like wrestling but a board game, and everyone's a wrestler. He is just a very interesting broken man. So Jeff Gerstmann and Dan Ryckert both decided, hey, this Dragon Ball FighterZ thing looks really cool. We've both had experience reviewing a lot of really bad Dragon Ball Z fighting games over the years, but this one looks actually good. And they started playing it, and they're like, boy, I really wish that we understood what the hell this was about, because both of them never had watched Dragon Ball Z when they were younger, because they're kind of older a bit. So they both bought all of Dragon Ball Z Kai on Blu-ray, and they've started a podcast of them getting into Dragon Ball Z Kai called All Systems Goku. this is two grown men, both of which kind of hate anime. Like, they admit that they've gotten, like, more chill with anime in recent years, but they're not, like, they don't like it, really. That's not their go-to. So, if you want a fantastic podcast of two grown-ass adult professional men slowly coming to, like, sincerely appreciate and fall in love with the early episodes of Dragon Ball Z Kai, go listen to All Systems Goku. It's so great, and it was one of those things where I'm like, oh no, they're gonna hate it. But, like, it's almost, like, reminding me of, like, what I loved about the show as a kid. And, like, seeing through adult eyes, like, oh yeah, none of this shit makes sense. Because they're jumping in, like, how most people did, just, like, when the Z stuff starts. And they only have the slightest of idea of what Dragon Ball was about. So, like, a lot of the early conversations are like, what the fuck is Piccolo? And just shit like that. It's really great, and it just puts a smile on my face. If you want to hear them, like, try to, like, figure out, like, Raditz's relationship to Goku by comparing it to, like, oh yeah, I think it's like this wrestling thing, then go listen to that. It's just very, very fun.
Yeah, it sounds good.
Yeah, it's really good.
Yeah.
I'm gonna link to that down below. Anywhere you could find WAFP, you could find All Systems Goku. So,
Can't believe you're shilling for other podcasts.
hey, they're better than we are.
Nonsense.
All right, that's it for my list. What do you have to bring to the table?
Oh, right. I'm a part of this. So, hello everyone. I played Final Fantasy IX.
Good job. Tell us about Final Fantasy IX.
Thanks. Rasen.
Yeah?
I'm gonna do a little bit of a throwback for you.
Okay.
Do you remember in the early days of WAFP how we used to constantly say that one day there would be the Final Fantasy episode?
Yeah.
That ain't never happened.
Yeah.
So Final Fantasy IX I'll talk about here instead.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay.
I like that game a lot.
Have you beaten it?
Yeah. It's my favorite one.
Oh, it's your favorite one.
Yeah.
This will be interesting then.
Okay.
Because I have heard so many people say it's their favorite one.
Mm-hmm.
And I have a really weird history with Final Fantasy IX, in which I've probably mentioned it here before, honestly, because I've talked about Final Fantasy IX before. I've always started that game, never finished it.
Mm-hmm.
I've started that game probably like 6 or 7 times.
Mm-hmm.
So I know Disc 1 like the back of my fucking hand. But this is the first time I really saw most of Disc 3 and the ending.
And how did you feel about Disc 3 and the ending?
Sorry. I liked it a fair bit, actually.
Mm-hmm.
So, I feel like Final Fantasy IX for me is very middle of the road in terms of my, like, ranking. I don't get how it's a lot of people's favorite, and I know that sounds dumb and pretentious, because obviously it's just subjective opinion. But it's just not anywhere near the top for me. I think a lot of it is just kind of rehashing things other games did better. I think a lot of it is just kind of awkward and not fun. But what I will say is hot damn does it fucking pull through on those themes.
Yeah.
Identity, self, death, coming to terms with death. That stuff is done so fucking well.
So that's the thing, I think, for me and most people who it's the favorite. Like, that cast is my third family. You know, like,
yeah.
I love those characters, and like you said, those themes are really good.
Yeah. And like, I feel like that last 1/3, everything with Kuja, and how that plays off of the stuff with Vivi earlier in the game,
Mm-hmm.
like, masterful storytelling, like, fucking fantastic.
Yeah. Also,
Um,
too,
yeah.
I know at least for me, that game just in general being like, oh, it's upbeat, but isn't afraid to go to some dark places, but overall is still like a really feel good thing, you know?
Yeah.
Um, was a thing that I kind of needed during my more like angsty teen years, and I think that is also part of the reason that like was a big thing for me.
Yeah, and see, for me, I respect that, but a lot of that early tone didn't do it for me. It just didn't really capture me in the way that like something like 7 or 6 or 10 did.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, also like, holy fuck, Chocobo Hot and Cold is the worst fucking thing. Um, I honestly was really bummed out when I learned just how much of the optional content was locked behind RNG digging.
Yeah.
I didn't fight Ozma, and I really wanted to, but when I found out, like, oh, this last, like, 5 hours I've spent mashing X trying to dig for these fucking chocographs, I have to do, like, another 15 hours of that before I can fight the super boss, fuck it, I just want to finish the game. So, that was a bit of a bummer, because I really love doing, like, 100% runs of 7 and doing all the optional bosses in 8 and stuff, so... Yeah, I don't know. I the characters didn't hit home for me the way they did for a lot of people, I guess. It
Mm-hmm.
was really just the themes and the writing that carried that game for me,
Yeah.
which is like why it's nowhere near the bottom for sure. It's in the middle for me. Where like there's stuff about that game that's really good, but yeah, a lot of the other stuff in between there just didn't really stick for me.
How do you feel about Necron?
Um,
So here's my thing, and I know I'm wrong. I fucking love Necron so much. He comes out of nowhere. He starts quoting the fucking Phantom Menace. He's great.
So, all right, this is getting into like weirdly specific stuff. How well do you remember the last bit of that game?
Uh, a fair bit. I mean, I know I remember the broad strokes. You know,
Okay, so like,
I last played it probably like around 2007.
all right, so it's been a while for you.
I played that game 3 times.
When I retroactively, so when you go through the last dungeon, I guess you could say,
Mm-hmm.
you get a lot of dialogue, or like text appears on
Like
the screen.
it's almost like a narration type thing going on.
Yes. And I couldn't tell if I was getting 1 or 2 narrations. Because there would be text that would appear on the screen that still had the background moving, and sometimes Zidane would react to it.
Mm-hmm.
But then, and I could be wrong, I could be fucking crazy, I felt like sometimes there was other narration that paused everything and didn't really play into it.
I could be not remembering the exact order of events, but I think wasn't the implication that some of that was Garland too?
I think the implication was some of it was Garland, but
Which also too, I want to say Garland is also a fucking great part of that game that I feel like doesn't get talked about enough.
yeah, sure. So I couldn't tell if, because at the time I think we were supposed to believe that it was either all Garland or Kuja,
Yeah.
but after meeting Necron, I retroactively thought, okay, was some of that Necron?
Yeah.
Which I don't know if that was their implication or not. If some of that was Necron, the Necron is pretty cool. If not, that fucking comes out of nowhere.
Yeah, no, so here's my... I think he is supposed to be a reference to, like, FF1 and 4, where it's like, surprise! It's the bad evil guy out of nowhere. I think that's literally all that is.
Hey, you know what it feels more like?
What?
Persona 4.
Yeah. I don't remember how exactly, like, specific in the game they say what he is literally just a god of death that after all shit hits the fan at the end, just shows up.
Yeah.
He's actually just not involved with the plot at all.
Well, so...
At least in 4, the fucking Izanami is behind shit.
Sure.
Necron is not.
So here's... Alright, so here's where it reminds me of a Persona final boss. It's like Persona 3, Persona 4, Persona 5, and Catherine.
Yeah.
Persona team final bosses. Here's what reminds me of that. It comes out of nowhere, it's a deity, and its entire shtick is, well, I looked at the villain and figured, if I guess that's how he feels, so that's how everyone must feel, so fuck all of it. It's very, very, like, last-minute Persona boss.
It just shows up out of nowhere, starts waxing like, you know, like...
Yeah.
Just philosophizing at the players.
And it's very, like, well, if one person feels that way, then it ruins it all. So, that's so Persona.
Yeah.
But hey, Final Fantasy IX beat it. And hey, Final Fantasy IX beat Persona 3 to some of those death themes, too.
Oh, man. That fucking surefire way to tears with me is that fucking no squall nor cloud will fucking whatever thing at the end. That was so good.
Fuck it.
That entire ending scene I love so much.
It went on a little long for me, but it was good. I really like. We've kind of just gone into full spoilers with this.
Yeah.
So
it's old.
Yeah, I know. I really liked when he went back for Kuja.
Yeah. No, that
was, hey, that's fucking character development and good writing.
Yeah.
Like, fucking wow. No, yeah, Zidane ended up a really great character at the end. The moment, the "you're not alone" moment, that is so good. Where that music started playing and overrode the whole, like, it overrode the regular battle theme, which is always great. And then all the characters show up. It's good. Yeah, honestly, it's just the first 2/3 of that game was just kind of too much fluff for me, I guess. But that last 1/3 carried it up to the middle. Like, I like it better than 4.
Yeah. Yeah, it's one of the, like, every time I just think of that game, I think of all of the shit Vivi went through, all of the Garnet stuff, like, just, even, like, people give shit to, like, Amaranth and, like, Kina and shit, but, like, I love all the party members of that game.
Yeah, sure. They don't do it for me, but I could see how they would for some people.
The Dragoon, Freya, is it?
Yeah, Freya's so cool.
Freya's awesome.
I wish she had more of a role in the story. But
I do too. Yeah. Oh god.
It was it's a bummer how a lot of the character stories kind of get dropped halfway through and just get wrapped up in the fucking ending credits.
Yeah.
But I guess that's how it had to be.
Yeah. I have a thing with that game. So, Zach, have you, when you were a kid, did you ever buy, like, a memory card used?
No.
So I did. And I remember, because when I got Final Fantasy VII, I got it on eBay with Spirits Within and Advent Children. And when I got 9, I also got it on eBay, and I'm pretty sure that was either I got 9 with Spirits Within and Advent Children and 7 with a memory card, or I got 9 with a memory card and 7 with Advent Children and Spirits Within.
You played these games way later than I did. Because I remember the anticipation for Advent Children to come out because I'd been such a fan of 7.
Yeah. I did not play 7 until the home release of Advent Children. Actually, you know what, though? I do want to say I rented it as a kid at least a little bit. Because when did Advent Children come out? Like 04?
04 or 05, I want to say.
Yeah, because I feel like because you know what? I had played at least somewhat a little bit of 7 because I remember being, like, excited for Dirge of Cerberus coming out, but being like, oh, I can't play that yet. So, yeah. I mean, keep in mind around that time I was also like 12, 13. So,
Yeah.
but anyways, so yeah, I'm pretty sure FF9 was the one that I got with the memory card because I don't think I'd remember this clearly. That dude's memory card had a shit, like, that dude was an RPG player. Like, almost every fucking, like, Square RPG and just RPGs in general you could think of, dude had a save for on that fucking thing. And they were all, like, endgame. Like, I checked every game that I fucking had, and, like, they were all, like, right before the final boss, like, full maxed out party and shit. Like, dude just fucking must have loved RPGs. So I checked out his Final Fantasy IX, like, party, and everyone was named regular, except Steiner was named Boner in all caps. And, like, that character, every single time I think of him, I just think of that now.
Oh.
And it's just the worst.
Yeah.
Man, did you how cool is the shit where if you have Vivi and fucking Steiner in the party, you could do the meteor sword and it doesn't affect the one hat? Like, I love that so much.
Yeah. No, yeah, for what it's worth, I like, end game, I rocked the very, like, I guess, like, basic bitch party, you could say, of Zidane, Garnet, Vivi, and Steiner.
Yeah. No, that was my party too.
And I know that, like, people, I'm sure it's like, oh, you gotta have Aiko and Amarant and Freya, but I liked the summons that Garnet had. I liked the sword magic you could do with the Vivi Steiner combo.
Hey, if you spend the time to catch all those frogs for the Kina thing,
Oof.
that does some fucking damage, bro.
Well, you know what I ended up doing that did some damage was I got the Reflect ×2 for Vivi, which is if you put Reflect on Vivi and then have Vivi cast a spell on himself to go to the enemy, it does double the damage. And guess what? That just makes some of his spells do the max damage.
That, did you know, actually, that game is one of the easiest Final Fantasies to do a low-level run through because it's so, like, skill and equipment based?
Yeah, I could feel that.
Yeah. That's something. Oh man, there was fuck. I was like, I wanted to talk about like one more thing with that game. Oh yeah, the FMVs for that game. I'm sure they don't hold up particularly, but I remember being blown away.
So hey, I eventually just swallowed my pride and played the PS4 version. And hey, that port has a lot of fucking issues, and you know what one of them is?
What?
One of the biggest, and for what it's worth, I feel like this is just... Alright, let me rephrase this. That port has a lot of issues that could easily be fixed, based on it being a kind of shitty mobile port. And from what I understand, the Steam version is the same.
Yeah.
I don't know if I've talked about it on this podcast before or not. The walking is 8-directional instead of full analog like the PS1 original. So I'm running into walls and I can't move my characters where I want them to because they don't move where I'm telling them to move. The experience, the encounter rate is lowered dramatically outside of the world map. So in any location, you'll probably end up running through without fighting anything. Meaning if you want to be properly leveled, you kind of have to grind on the world map. Like, there's just so many dumb issues. The music has that same bug all the PS4 Final Fantasy ports do, where it restarts after battle instead of continuing.
And, like, that's one of those things, too. Like, the grinding thing specifically pisses me off because, like, the two games I think of where it's like, oh, they mastered the experience points down to a fucking T for me were always Chrono Trigger and FF9. Like...
Yeah.
I never need to... And honestly, to be fair, most Final Fantasy games, like, 5 on, I feel like, do a pretty good job where, like, hey, if you're just playing through, you're not gonna hit...
You'll be fine.
Yeah, like, 4 has, like, the 1 or 2 bosses, I feel, but, like, Final Fantasy, that's one thing I'll always give it credit for. You'll mostly be fine, but, like, I remember 9 being, like, that was one where it's, like, you don't need to fucking grind, so that's a shame.
Final Fantasy is generally not very hard, either.
Yeah.
But I ran into a problem early on in Final Fantasy IX on PS4 where I was dying to a boss and didn't understand why. And I realized, I actually realized because I jumped back to my PS3 file originally because I was playing on PS3 and then the PS4 version came out and I jumped to that and then I hated it, so I jumped back to PS3 and then jumped back to PS4. And when I did that, I realized that I was literally like 10 or 15 levels behind on the PS4 one.
Yeah.
But so all those issues are issues I think are legitimately problems that should have been fixed or changed.
Mm-hmm.
The one issue that I will admit has no good solution is that those character models on the PS4 version, and I guess the mobile and Steam ones as well, look amazing.
Yeah.
They're crisp, they're redone, and they look high definition in a way that they never could on the PS1.
Mm-hmm.
But nothing else does. So you have these crisp, clear, HD, beautiful models on top of blurry, rendered PS1 JPEGs.
Yeah.
And it looks so awkward and clashes so much. You can instantly tell what can be interacted with and what can't based on the quality of the image.
Oof.
And you're just kind of running around this blurry, pixelated world as a clean, crisp character. And you could ignore it for the most part until the ending, when there's a bit that they do. It transitions from an FMV to like moving the character model in a cutscene.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if you remember the bit where towards the end, I think it's when Zidane is going back for Kuja and he's running through vines as everything is collapsing.
Yeah.
That looks so fucking bad on the PS4.
Oh no, that's like one of the best parts of the game.
And I could tell that on PS1 in the 90s, when both of these things looked similar quality, it must have been, or actually early 2000s, I think, it must have looked amazing.
Yeah.
But on PS4, when you've got this clear, crisp model and everything else looks like shit, it's so bad.
That's a bummer.
Yeah. But hey, so yeah, Final Fantasy IX, pretty good. Do you have anything else to say about it?
Yeah, I like that game a lot. I've been meaning to go back to it for years now. It's just one of those things where it's like, hey, now that I make videos about things, I just want to go through them in order. So I'll get to it eventually.
That's why we were originally talking about having a Final Fantasy episode, but fuck that.
Yeah.
That was like 3 years ago, wasn't it?
Yeah. I got through 4. So yeah. Like, man, I've been like, this is weird. And I think part of this has to do with like me slowly going through Xenogears as well. I've been in like a Chrono Cross mood.
Dude, I know that exact mood you're talking about.
Yeah, and like I could go for another Chrono Cross run maybe one of these days this year.
I never finished it.
It took me a while, but I did.
I'm pretty sure I had the same problem with that as one of my PS1 Final Fantasy IX copies, where I think my disc 2 was scratched up and I couldn't continue. Or it might have even been, it was like a certain part in disc 1 maybe, but like I remember being bummed that my playthrough of that game was stopped.
Yeah.
Because that was also one of those games that I got, I know I told you the story, I think I told it on WAFP too, where my sister was linked all those games, and then they just became mine.
Yeah.
That was one of those.
Yeah. Man, I like Cross more than Trigger.
Same.
Thank you, fucking Christ. No one,
No, I'm right there with you, man.
Thank you. So I'll get into it one day. Now's not the time.
Yeah, now's
not the time. But like,
but hey, whatever you're gonna say, I back you 100%.
Good, because that game is like so much more interesting in like every way.
So much more interesting and beautiful. The music, the setting, the
honestly,
the
only problem with that game is the cast size.
Yeah.
And also the fact that, like, because the cast size, you know that there was the one character that was supposed to be Magus, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a shame that they never did that, but whatever. So yeah. But speaking of Final Fantasy,
well, hold on. Cuz here's the thing, Rasen, about Final Fantasy IX.
Mm-hmm.
I wanted to beat it because it was one of two that kept getting away from me. And as a as a pretty big Final Fantasy fan, there was a moment where I was lukewarm on the series, but I've come back around to loving it. There was, well, I mean, I never beat 2 and I never beat 3, but I probably never will beat those, like, and I don't really care.
Yeah, they're old.
But I beat 1, you know. The only ones I can say that I didn't beat and really want to were 9 and 12. I've done all of them other than that. Some of them many times. So I wanted to beat 9, and then I wanted to move on to 12.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a moment where I literally bought Final Fantasy XII The Zodiac Age on PS4, had it in my hands ready to play, and for some unknown fucking reason, the day before I went to start it, I bought Kingdom Hearts 1.5 plus 2.5 HD Remix.
It's like, hurts my soul as you're describing this, but carry on.
So, instead of Final Fantasy XII, I'm playing Kingdom Hearts.
So I was gonna keep the. I also have started playing Kingdom Hearts.
Oh my god!
I didn't get very far, so I'm not gonna have much to say. But
How are you?
I just got past the island shit, so I'm not far at all.
So I'm on Agrabah.
Okay.
Rasen, what's your history with Kingdom Hearts? I mean, we've talked about this, but for the people at home.
So I was very excited. So I was the age to be a Kingdom Hearts lad. You know,
Yeah.
like my history with Kingdom Hearts is me being pretty excited for that game, but like I didn't really like I guess it was one of those things where like I didn't have the money to spend at the time, so I had to wait for Christmas. And I got Kingdom Hearts for Christmas the year it came out. The problem being my PS2 that I had, like we got a PS2 pretty close to when it came out. Our controller was just faulty. Like we took good care of it and everything. Like the wire just went out on it. Like it wasn't our fault at all. Like, and if I recall, PS2 controllers at the time that came out were pretty expensive still. But the thing is, PS1 controllers for the vast majority of games work with PS2 games. So it's just like, oh, no problem. We'll plug in the PS1 controller and we'll just play PS2 games. It's fine. Kingdom Hearts is one of the few games where you need a PS2 controller for. So I got the game, booted up the beautiful title screen, and I was like, why isn't it working? And it was just like, oh, I need the new controller. I don't got the money for that. So, well, guess I'm not playing this. So Kingdom Hearts just sat forever. Eventually, Kingdom Hearts Chain of Memories comes out. And that is one of the few games where I distinctly remember sitting my ass down and watching cartoons and seeing the commercial and being like, oh my god, I need this. So I got Chain of Memories, and I also got a PS2 controller. And I played Chain of Memories and Kingdom Hearts 1 kind of around the same time, which is weird.
That's awkward.
I have a lot of really fond, like, just, like, staying up late with the covers over my head playing Chain of Memories on my Game Boy Advance, hoping my parents don't find out, like, type memories and shit.
Yeah.
Chain of Memories is a game very close to my heart. I also played Kingdom Hearts 1, and I liked it a fair bit. A little bit, like, later on, Kingdom Hearts 2 came out. So, like, I was never the biggest Kingdom Hearts fan, but I liked 1, and I had really fond memories of Chain of Memories. And 2's story just goes so AWOL, and, like, that's kind of what the series is known for now. But at the time, I just was like, I don't know. And I kind of just beat Kingdom Hearts 2 and was like, I don't know if I care anymore. And I kind of haven't really gone back since until recently. Where I kind of would, like, check in and look up, like, oh, what's happening in the story of Kingdom Hearts, and, like, kind of get bits and pieces and being like, oh, that's dumb. But, like, now I'm ready to go back in, and I'm sure a lot of the problems I have with 2 that, like, the people that like those games are just gonna be like, oh, yeah, that's just part of it, you know? I feel like I'm still gonna have a lot of those problems, but, like, I'm ready to give it another shot for, like, to get ready for 3, you know?
Yeah. I have a similar backstory, but kind of, well, not similar in like the controller stuff, but
It was very weird that this is just an issue.
reversed in some areas. I'm your reverse Rebirth, you might say.
Thank you.
So I have a lot of really fond memories of Kingdom Hearts 1. Like that was a game that was big for me at the time. And I think I like Chain of Memories just okay. So kind of the opposite of you in that regard.
Yeah.
I had Kingdom Hearts 1 when it came out, and I bought it on the grounds of, oh my god, they're mixing Final Fantasy with Disney. What is this weird Frankenstein's monster bullshit?
Yeah.
And I will admit, even as a kid, because I was a weird kid, I would remember being really bummed out that the Final Fantasy characters in that game were not really the Final Fantasy characters.
Yeah, they're...
It was kind of a gimmick to get Final Fantasy fans in there. And, like, none of them act the way they're supposed to act. Some of them are kids, and it's like...
That game has kind of ruined Squalls and Cloud's, like, characterization in a lot of people's eyes.
They sure fucking have. And even to the point of, like, playing it again now, they're very upfront with the fact that these aren't supposed to be those Final Fantasy characters.
Yeah.
And, like, they're even, like, the 7 and 8 characters are from the same world, and they like have their own original backstory.
Yeah.
You know? But fuck it, Cloud and Sephiroth are in there, so...
Yeah. I feel like... Actually, you go on ahead. I'll lead with this later.
Sure.
But...
So I played Kingdom Hearts 1 when I was a kid. I liked it a lot. I played Chain of Memories on Game Boy, and I liked it a fair bit. It wasn't my favorite game ever, but I remember having a good time with it. Kingdom Hearts 2 came out, and I was so fucking in on Kingdom Hearts 2. And the thing was, I didn't really care about the Disney stuff at that point. Like, the fun for me was not, oh boy, I get to visit the Lion King world and I get to see what the Nightmare Before Christmas guys are up to.
Yeah.
I was in on, like, what's gonna happen with Sora and Kairi? Where's Riku at? Is Riku gonna be cool now? This Roxas thing, man, that's so deep. I'm so into it. And that lasted up until the very end of Kingdom Hearts 2. And then about maybe a month after Kingdom Hearts 2 came out, I just stopped fucking caring instantly.
Yeah.
Like the minute they announced the next game, I no longer cared. I had moved on to other things, you know? And like, from the point of time that Kingdom Hearts 2 came out to now, I have not cared.
Yeah.
I didn't care about Birth by Sleep. I didn't care about Recoded. I didn't care about 300 fucking whatever days. I didn't care about Dream Drop Distance. And I didn't even think I would care about Kingdom Hearts 3. But I do, apparently. And I am very excited to now go through all of it. And I am so ready for the bullshit. I am hungry for this ridiculous nonsense. I know at some point there's like 17 Ansems around.
Yeah, there is.
I can't fucking wait, man. I am so... They're gonna start talking about the darkness. I know Riku is gonna become a character at some point. I can't wait. So I am way more excited for this bullshit than I thought I would be.
That's the thing. So that's kind of what this has become. I feel like... Shit, I almost tripped. The only
walking.
Yes. Oh no, I got excited. Kingdom Hearts has me pumped. I feel like with Kingdom Hearts 1, there's a way that series could have gone more in that series's vein, like more in that game's vein, than what they ended up doing with Chain of Memories and 2.
Yeah.
And I feel like there's an alternate world where I still cared about Kingdom Hearts if it had kind of continued down that way.
Like the lighthearted Disney fun adventure thing.
And that's my thing, where it kind of went from being this thing that was a little bit more, I want to say for kids, to more of like, this is a preteen melodrama, you know?
Yeah.
And you know what? I know that game series is close to a lot of people, and like they love it in spite of it being really dumb and goofy, and a lot of people have like grown up with it, and that's just part of the enjoyment for them now. But like, not gonna lie, at the time I was like, man, I kind of wanted more, and like you made this Final Fantasy Disney cute crossover more needlessly complicated than you needed to. But as an adult going back and just knowing like, yeah, that's gonna happen, like I'm curious to see how I feel. But yeah. Also, so like, how do you feel about that series' gameplay? Because I know that series has a lot of big fans in that department. I know a lot of people really love 2's combat. I've always just thought they're all just well, like, 1 has not aged particularly well.
No, it has not. It's rough.
But even, like, I've gone back to 2 a few times to try it out, and I've gone, like, a couple, like, runs that got, like, halfway throughout the years. I don't think I see what other people see in that game's combat system. Like,
I don't either. I think it's just okay.
So, like, here's the thing.
I know apparently Birth by Sleep gets really fun.
Yeah, I know that, and apparently, like, that, like, especially to be fair to with all, like, the final mix stuff, they add the big super bosses where you really need to know what you're doing, but, like, my thing with all those games is, like, these games need to be easy enough that a kid can win, like, all the time, basically, and, like, I've never really felt like any of the customization stuff had that much meaning to it, and that always kind of bummed me out. They're pretty simple, all things considered.
I'll also say, at least as far as the first game revisiting it has been so far, it's one of those games where when you break it down, there's not a whole lot to do outside of combat. You're kind of going from screen to screen, figuring out where you go next. And, like, the worlds are small enough so far where they're kind of just, like, little puzzle boxes on where you go and just fight along the way.
I kind of explicitly have memories as a kid of where it's like, oh, I'm lost, and I just get to the point where it's like, just run past everything and hug the walls and hope you find where to go.
Yeah. And yeah, in that respect, like, they're not great RPGs, like you know, in the sense of, I mean, there's Traverse Town in the first game, and I know there's an equivalent town in the second game where you can go back to the sort of like little hub area and sort of do your shopping and have a little bit more downtime, but they're mostly kind of simplistic hack and slash RPGs.
And I think the thing with them is they do feel good, like the actual like swinging and moving around, at least for Tuhan.
Yeah,
but
one's rough.
Yeah, 1 is rough. The platforming in 1 is oh god, but it's always been that thing for me where it's like these feel like just moving around and doing stuff feels good and smooth, but like the actual like, oh, change out your keyblades and the like, what are you gonna equip, like all that, I'm like, it's not that deep. I don't know. But yeah. So
yeah, but hey, the darkness.
Yeah, the dark. Shoutouts to Organization 13. Oh. Woof. So yeah, are you gonna go through? So you have the PS4 collections. So
oh yeah. Well, I only have 1.5 plus 2.5.
I got 1.5 plus 2.5. There was a day where Amazon just glitched the fuck out and had the best sales ever. And I got that game amongst like 5 other games that I got from that like price like issue thing. And then when when you started talking about replaying it, I saw that fucking 2.8 was on sale at GameSpot. Fuck, no, I did it. Fuck. At GameStop's website, 2.8 collection was on sale, so I picked that up, and I have that ready to go now too. But I was like, yeah, fuck it, I'll play Kingdom Hearts with Zach. I got nothing in my life anymore.
This is good.
Yeah.
How do you feel about Kyrie?
You
know what I honestly didn't remember, and yes, I realized I just asked you a question and then cut off your answer.
Yeah, it's fine.
I didn't remember that she wasn't from the island.
Yeah. Hey, guess what? I don't even remember how many times they point that out afterward.
Yeah. Well, I'm assuming we find out at some point where she's from.
I think, maybe. So, yeah, here's my thing with Kyrie. I wish I could give you my opinion on her, but she hasn't really, she doesn't do anything. You know? She gets the Keyblade and never uses it.
So, I'll say this. And this is gonna... No, I don't think many people are gonna agree with me on this. I feel like at this point, the Disney stuff is holding the series back. I feel like if they want to go all in on the bullshit, they should just go all in on the bullshit. And I'm not saying you don't have the Disney worlds in there, but did we really need Kingdom Hearts 3 to be Donald and Goofy again?
Yes.
Wouldn't it have been kind of cool if the party members of the final Kingdom Hearts game was Sora, Riku, and Kairi?
See, here's the thing, though. I feel like that will be a thing in that game. You know, like, at some point.
Be one level where you have all three of them?
Like, maybe the second to last or last level, the three get together, and that's the big cool thing, you know? Do you remember how Mickey became your weird, like, death assist in 2 for some parts, and you got to play as him for a little bit?
I remember him being there, but not really the details of it.
Yeah, I feel like they'll do something like that, where, like, they'll pop in for the cool moments, but...
Well, I guess. But Donald and Goofy are dumb, and I don't need them. But hey, maybe I'll feel differently after I spend 19 games with them.
Yeah.
I'm excited to play the PS2 version, well, the PS4 version of Chain of Memories, because I never did that.
So, that game is a very bizarre... like, I guess it's, like, bizarre, but also when you really think it through, it makes sense. Some things about that game work a lot better when you make it into a 3D game. Others, not so much. There are some parts of that game that were explicitly made to be at that weird isometric, like, kind of side-scrolly type combat arena, you know?
Yeah.
Some things don't always work well in 3D. That game is actually a lot harder in that 3D version. So, yeah. And I think, like, the final boss of, like, the main story of that game is also, like, oh god, that super was not made to be played in 3D, if I recall, too. But yeah. Are you going to play the games not in the collection as games, or are you just going to watch the cutscenes?
I'm probably just gonna watch the cutscenes.
Okay. I never really gave a fair shake at 358/2, and I kind of want to just try it out, but I probably won't stick to it because that game is bad and should not have been on the DS.
So my thing is, like, even, like, I already have, 5 games to play, plus the whatever, a fragmentary passage. I know it's not a full game, but so 5 plus maybe 6 games to play without getting into that, so...
Yeah, that's fair.
Because I will buy 2.8 once I'm done with these.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like, why would I not, you know?
Yeah.
If I'm in that far, I might as well finish it.
Do you think that game will come out 2018?
Kingdom Hearts 3?
Yeah.
I think if it doesn't... I don't think...
I think we're a year away, maybe a year and a half.
I feel like if it doesn't come out at the end of 2018, it will be at the beginning of 2019.
Yeah, I feel like that one we've seen enough at this point that that's a fair shake away from coming out.
Yeah.
Final Fantasy VII still... Okay, let's fucking... I feel like we placed bets on Final Fantasy VII already.
Mm-hmm.
I'm thinking 2020.
So...
I think that game might go PS5.
I don't think we're gonna get a PS5 in 2020, man.
How? But yeah, you know what? Because it's been how many years has it been? PS4?
It's been a couple, but the thing is, I think with the way they're doing the PS4 Pro and the Xbox One X, that's gonna extend this generation longer than any we've had before.
Yeah, that's true.
I don't think we're gonna see the PS5 until like 2022, 2023.
Yeah. Be about 10 years like the PS3 lifespan was.
Yeah.
Actually not 10, but more like 8. But
yeah.
I was about to say if it was 10 years, that would be like 2016. But anyways. So. Yeah. Kingdom Hearts.
Yep.
Speaking of things you've been doing...
Interesting dance. Okay. So, the reason why I have only had Final Fantasy IX and Kingdom Hearts to talk about is because the actual entirety of my past month has been two things. It's been the Karen Kyoukai event in Fate Grand Order and watching Critical Role.
Which we talked about very early on in this podcast.
I want to say episode 5?
Yeah, I think it's 5.
So, I'm going to tell my Critical Role story.
Oh, God.
Which you've heard bits and pieces of on this podcast before, and Rasen knows intimately.
Yeah.
I'm not going to get very in-depth, don't worry. I'm not going to talk about...
No, tell them, make them suffer like I did.
I'm not going to get very in-depth. Fuck you, this is your fault!
It's actually all my fault is the best part.
So Rasen got me to start watching Critical Role back when this podcast first started, and you can hear us talking about it on episode 5, but don't, because that episode is bad. Unlike this one, which is golden.
Yeah, which is fucking pure quality.
I loved it. Loved it. And then, about 20 episodes in, hated it with a passion.
Yeah, we never talked about that part of it.
We never talked about it, but, oh man, did I despise it. Would go on regular rants in Skype calls about how much it fucking sucked, how I had to unfollow all of its cast members on Twitter because whenever I saw them tweeting about it, it would churn my stomach. I said it was cringy, it was embarrassing, it was dumb. Everyone was just using it to do overdramatic acting rather than actually play Dungeons & Dragons. Fuck Critical Role. So about a month ago, they started Campaign 2, which is after 115 episodes of the original story, they did a time skip and moved to a new continent, created all new characters, and have started a new story. In the same world, but a new story. And for some reason, I said, okay, I'll watch it. I liked it a lot. I had a lot of fun. I felt similar to how I felt when I first started it. So I went, alright, I kind of want to watch more of this, but because it's now coming out weekly, once I'm done with this episode, I'm just done. So after, like, episode 3, I went, let me go back and pick up where I left off. Well, I think I skipped, like, 1 or 2 episodes just because I wanted to jump to the next major start of the story arc. I love it more than ever before. And I don't understand why I hated it for a moment. I really don't. I have no excuse. I don't know. But, like, I've watched so much of this show in this past month. It's unreal that it is just all I've done. I'm on episode 73. These episodes are 3 to 4 hours long.
Yeah, like, I was gonna say, like, honestly, after you had stopped, I got a little bit further than you had, and, like, I just kind of stopped because they were just so, like, I still liked it. I never started, like, hating it or anything. I just kind of stopped because, like, they're very long.
And I'll admit, every once in a while, I'll still feel like a little, oh, this is kind of cringy, like, bit. But I don't care, because I love it so much.
It's specifically, like, the romance stuff with you, right?
The romance stuff, well, honestly, it's just sometimes Liam O'Brien gets a little overdramatic, and he gets a little too into it.
Yeah.
But a different romance started up in this past episode I watched, and I was so into it. So I can't even say it's the romance stuff, because I'm super down for the new one. So yeah, I'm on episode 73 of 115.
Jesus fucking Christ.
I will be done with this soon.
Okay.
Because I'm just gonna keep watching it until it's done. Because I am all in on it. I love the story, I love the action, I love the characters, I love the cast. I refollowed all of them on Twitter, because I can't get enough of them now. And I don't have an excuse for... I don't have an excuse for why I like it, and I don't have an excuse for why I used to hate it. So... it's just a thing that exists.
It's been a very, like, I kind of didn't believe you when you said you were watching Critical Role again when this, like, started back up. I was like, oh, he's just gonna, like, bounce off of it again. And then, like, you just kept going, and then it became, like, a lifestyle, and I was like, what the fuck's happening?
I don't do anything other than Critical Role right now.
And this has been, like, a week, like, 2.5 weeks. About like this happened fast.
Yeah, real fast. And I've kept up every Thursday night for the foreseeable future will be Critical Role for me. I will be watching them live. I will have a little snack. I will be talking in the chat if I feel like it, because I'm all in. I do have a couple of things to say other than just me laughing that I love this show.
Okay.
I do not... So, it's hard to recommend a starting point on this one. Because we talked about this before, but it's really rough at first.
Yeah.
Honestly.
They are literally just pointing cameras at their game, kinda.
Yeah, and also they start halfway through a game.
Yeah, which is also rough.
I would say, if you're interested, try out the new campaign that just started. Campaign 2 is obviously much higher production values, and it is the beginning of a story.
This has become more of a job for them. Like, I mean, they love doing it, but
Yes.
this has become more of a actual real deal fucking show as it's gone on, for sure.
Absolutely. And so that being said... Rasen, you haven't watched anything from Campaign 2.
Nope.
So this is actually interesting to talk about with you, because Campaign 2 is very different from Campaign 1. For a couple of reasons. Campaign 1 is filled with high drama and high stakes, because all of those actors, and this isn't meant as an insult, but it's just true, all of those actors are way too attached to their characters. And when I say that, I mean they're attached to their own character and each other's characters, and you can tell. Because when things go wrong, they start legitimately crying about it, and it doesn't feel fake.
Yeah.
Campaign 2 is very different. They are kind of more just having fun playing Dungeons and Dragons again, with some fun acting bits thrown in. And we never saw that part of the first campaign, because it was off camera.
Yeah.
So, whereas Campaign 1 is very much them fighting dragons, saying their characters have fallen in love with each other, taking on gods, crying about deaths, and getting all this big dramatic stuff. Campaign 2 is a bunch of, like, fucking nobodies fighting dog people in a cave for a couple of gold coins, you know?
Mm-hmm.
And that's kind of fun. But at the same time, it's really weird for me, because I'm going from watching these high-stakes, high-drama episodes to when I watch the new episode, it's very low-stakes, very low-drama, more just kind of laughing around. And then back to the high-stakes, high-drama of Campaign 1. So it's a little awkward.
Man, we gotta start up our shit back again, don't we?
Oof. Yeah, sure. So I was gonna say this. If you're interested in Critical Role, try Campaign 2. If you like what you see and want to go back to Campaign 1, maybe jump in after, like, maybe jump into, like, episode 40-ish? Like, find out the start of, like, the dragon storyline, the Chroma Conclave stuff. I think it's an episode called Omens. Give that a shot, maybe. because I don't know if it's worth watching the first couple episodes.
First couple, 1 through 38.
Well, hey. I guess you can watch the Briarwood stuff, but I don't know. But yeah. So the only other thing, too, that I was going to say about the differences is that what's fun about Campaign 2, because they don't have the drama and the connections between the characters, is that they're keeping their character backstories a secret. Whereas when Campaign 1 started, we kind of got all these big, like, text dumps and info dumps about what had happened previously. With this one, it's very much like they're trying to play up the mystery of all their characters, and there's a lot of like, all right, all of the cast leave, and I'm gonna do this one-on-one scene with this person, and like, there's a lot of weird stuff like that. It's fun.
That's fun.
Yeah, and you don't need to watch any of Campaign 1 to watch this. It's completely separate.
Mm-hmm.
So go on YouTube, look up Campaign 2, Episode 1, and give it a go. It's fun. Also, I'm going on about this way more than I thought I would, sorry. But fuck you, I've listened to you talk about Twin Peaks for like
yeah,
a million years.
I was about to say that's fair after the Monster Hunter discourse that happened.
You could tell that these are all like the second characters that someone would make, because the cast of the first campaign is like a bunch of beautiful half-elves, angsty, like, oh, I'm the ranger, I'm the rogue. This one is a bunch of like tieflings and like half orcs and goblins. Sam Riegel is playing a little goblin girl, and it's the best thing ever because Sam Riegel is amazing.
Yeah, he's great.
He's hilarious. And like, yeah, Laura Bailey is doing an accent that she didn't do before. Liam O'Brien gets progressively more German with each episode. It's just a lot of fun. So if you want to hear people doing goofy accents and you have a high barrier for occasionally cringeworthy stuff and overacting about Dungeons and Dragons, I recommend checking it out. And I guess that's all I have to say about Critical Role.
Man, we should start our fucking campaign bullshit up again.
Sure. I'm gonna overact.
Good.
I'm gonna do a goofy accent the whole time.
Good. Just gotta finish editing those two tabletop videos that we've done.
Nope.
Let's go into emails.
Okay.
Alright, this one's from Gonzalo, and he says, "Hello, Rasen and Zach. Hope you're doing well today. After seeing Rasen's tweets about Battlefield 1 and how much fun he was having, and since last podcast was about something as dark as Devilman, I felt the need to ask you this. Since last time, did you have a moment either playing a game or consuming any other piece of media that you had a really good time or just plain old fun while doing it? Hope you have an amazing week. Can't wait for the podcast." Honestly, just what we talked about here.
Yeah, I mean, it's become a thing, especially this month where I've done nothing but Critical Role, where we just kind of like, I literally talked about everything I've done, so.
Yeah.
And we're talking about since the last episode. I guess there were parts of Final Fantasy IX I felt that, and I kind of feel that with Kingdom Hearts right now, but no, I'm still in a dark, angsty place with video games and movies and things, I think.
Mm-hmm. Black Panther really made my night when I saw that. Not gonna lie. It was really good. And yeah, Battlefield 1 was also very good. Thank you, Gonzalo.
Thank you.
Moving along to Sonia. Hello again, I'm back with another question. Right now, I am about to complete all the Japanese classes available through my community college. I've been studying Japanese for about a year from this April, and it got me wondering, do you guys know any other languages aside from English? And if not, what would you like to learn?
I wish and Japanese.
I took Spanish classes in high school, and, like, every year I can slowly feel that knowledge being lost.
Yeah.
Like I will recognize random phrases and like words, but like I used to be a lot more fluent. Not to be fair, I also used to like know someone who like spoke fluently and like was like kind of helped me out with that. But like I don't talk to that person anymore, and like yeah, I haven't properly studied another language. Honestly, like I think so like actually my best friend just on a whim in high school started like self-teaching himself Russian. And that's just been a hobby for him, and he's like apparently really good at it. By now, like he's like talked to like Russian people and shit, and like started translating some stuff like pseudo professionally. At least he's translated stuff for money. And if I ever were to do that for something, I feel like French would be a fun one to learn.
See, I took French in high school, and that knowledge has very, very, very quickly left my brain.
Mm-hmm. This is really shallow. I'm a big fan of how French sounds.
It sounds great.
Yeah. I want to be that guy.
Yeah. Yeah, no, my main thing is that learning a language is really hard. It requires a lot of dedication and hard work. And for someone that has motivation issues as it is, it's a big task to ask.
It is also literally like harder the older you get to learn another language. So yeah.
Yeah, so maybe one day, but I've said that my whole life. So
yeah. Honestly, yeah, it's one of those things where I'm like, if, like, you know, maybe, but I don't think it realistically I'll ever probably sit down and do it. Like, I can see a world where, like, hey, I need to move somewhere for work, maybe I'll, like, you know, but, like, that's the only time I'd probably, like, if I have to move somewhere where, like, that would be beneficial, you know?
yeah.
But, like, other than that, I don't think I'd ever really sit down and, like, learn. Just like, yeah, I don't really think I have the motivation for it, unfortunately, but there's part of me that wishes I continued on with Spanish in college, but like it didn't really fit in. So
But hey, good luck, and like, man, it's awesome that you did all the classes. Like,
yeah,
that's something to be really proud of.
yeah. Thank you, Sonia. Now we are moving on to Derry. Derry says, hey, Rasen and Zach, it's Derry. Sorry that I haven't been around the calls. I'm basically a vampire in that I will not come in unless I'm invited. I think that's how vampire lore works anyway. Derry, you're welcome anytime.
No, you have to get my permission specifically.
Just message Zach before
Message
joining.
me.
1. Assuming that y'all didn't cover this already, what's your opinion on the P3 and P5 dancing games and those awful fucking outfits? I don't like have any intention of picking those up. I don't know. I didn't pick up P4 dancing either, to be honest, so
I picked it up eventually, like long afterwards.
yeah.
Pre-owned for cheap, and I didn't like it. So I went on like a huge Twitter rant for like an hour about this.
Oh, was
and
it
then
that long?
Deleted all my tweets. Not because I didn't stand by them, but because I felt like I wasn't conveying myself well, and I was just kind of screaming at no one.
Yeah.
So I don't know if I've properly formulated how I feel enough to talk about it here without having the same problem. But I will just say that I think those outfits are bad, and I think that I have a lot of issues with the direction Persona has gone.
Yeah.
I lost a couple Twitter followers for that rant too, so...
For anyone who missed out, P5 Dancing All Night has, like, Nazi fetish outfits for the characters.
So I will say, too, like, I didn't even notice the, like, Nazi hat stuff at first. It was just the, like, sexy lingerie cabaret outfits in general that I was just like, what the fuck? Yeah. And then it was like, oh, and there's dictator fetish stuff on top of it. Great. Yeah. And then also, like, Anne has, like, a chainmail bikini.
Oh.
Like there's a lot of bad costumes.
Yeah, like honestly, like I made a tweet that's like, even if like Persona 5, even if I didn't have the problems I had with Persona 5, like in terms of like the writing and like just like a lot of stuff I don't care for with that game, like I don't know how much more interest I can have in a series where like so much of the draw, like even just from a marketing standpoint, is like based on the like, oh, dating all the waifus, and it's like I don't care. Also, I'm gonna be real, they're all the fucking same. I'm sorry. Like, none of the people introduced in P5, like, have new traits that weren't just, like, stapled together from P3 and P4 girls. Like, it's... unless they, like, change up, like, so much shit about that series. I don't even think I care enough to see what P6 is. Well, actually, you know what? I won't say that because fucking Hashino is gonna be out. But, like, I don't know. I don't care about where that series is going, honestly.
Yeah. So... I feel like, and this is gonna sound stupid, but like, I feel like the Persona 3 characters were like real characters with anime tropes kind of thrown on top.
Yeah.
And I feel like Persona 4 were anime tropes with some occasional real character stuff thrown on top.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like Persona 5 is they've taken both of those things and like focus tested them down to science.
That was the exact word I was gonna use, is focus tested. They are the safest fucking characters, and honestly, like, with each passing day, I put P5 on my top 10 games, and I do think that is a good game if I had to put it down, but like, what a fucking joke that was. Like, the more I think about it, it's like, they literally just did the safest shit, and I refuse to believe that game took that long to come out. Like, what did we wait for? It was so boring. Like, it was just the same shit, you know? It looked good. Yeah, it sounded good, but...
Yeah, hey, that's some really good music. And I'm not gonna lie, like, I like Makoto. I think she's really cool. I've got the Makoto PS4 theme. But, like, I like Makoto in the sense of, like, yes, I like this product that was crafted in a way that would be enjoyable, you know?
Yeah.
Like, it doesn't she doesn't feel like a character. She feels like, oh, she's cool. She does the punching stuff, and she's cool. Like, I don't know.
Yeah. No, they really need to innovate.
Yeah. And hey, maybe stop sexualizing the 15-year-olds. Like, fucking stop.
Yeah. Like, honestly, yeah, it's at a point where it's either stop doing that shit or, like, hey, like, actually make the characters older, and like maybe if you want to explore adult relationships and themes, do that, because like I'm tired of the like, oh, this is gonna date the wacky high school dating hijinks, and it's like, yeah, there's only so much you can do with that, even.
And you can't even make the argument that the game is for teenagers because it's rated M for mature.
No, like, well, you've said this, and I totally agree with you. They totally have those adult options in P5 because they knew there's going to be people that want to do the waifu romance bullshit, but they don't feel comfortable doing that with the high school aged girls anymore. Like,
and it creates this weird dynamic where I'm uncomfortable dating the teenagers because I'm an adult.
Yeah.
But I'm uncomfortable dating adults because the character's a teenager.
Yeah, and I have that same problem because, like, honestly, like, in my playthrough, I'm romancing Tay because, like, I like her character a lot, but, like, yeah, like, I don't like the undertones that has within the fiction of the world then either. And that makes me like her as a character less because she would go through with something like that, you know? Yeah. There's, like, yeah, I don't know. That game should have been about backpacking travelers like it was originally supposed to be.
Hey, I think the themes of Persona 5 are actually really interesting. It's just a shame that it doesn't deliver on any of them.
Yeah, like, that's the thing. Yeah.
All right. Okay.
Yeah.
Persona 5 dancing, I will not buy. Hey, you know what? Those should have been the same game, too. Fuck you for making those two separate games.
Yeah, and also, so, correct me if I'm wrong, but, because I'm not rhythm game person. You are. You are definitely rhythm game person.
Oh, no.
Oh.
I'm Project Diva person.
Oh, well, okay. Well, I mean, but those games are kind of aping from Project Diva, aren't they?
Well, yeah, so, they were originally meant to be
made by them, right?
Yeah, Persona 4 Dancing was originally developed by the Project Diva people.
And then they split, right?
Then they split, and it was developed in-house instead.
Mm-hmm.
And it changed the gameplay just enough
mm-hmm.
to where it's not Project Diva anymore, but still reminiscent of it.
But isn't it like a bad take on that style of gameplay from what it seemed like?
I think it is.
Well, like, I know a lot of people that were just pretty disappointed with how it played because, like, the scoring doesn't make much sense, apparently, and, like, it's not great. And it seems, so from what I've heard, it doesn't seem like they're doing much to change that with these two either.
They aren't.
Yeah, that's lame, but...
Yeah, it is inferior Project Eva in every respect.
Yeah.
Like, just play Project Eva.
I'm also really looking forward to the characters from P5 who I already had issues with just within their base game being like grinded down into even more like generic garbage by the spin-offs.
Yeah. Aren't you excited for Persona Q2?
I am so excited.
All right, man. I've got a hot take.
Yeah.
Do you remember the PS2 and DS eras of Megami Tensei?
Yeah.
Remember how, like, all of the fun spin-offs were taking the core concepts of SMT and exploring them in ways that SMT couldn't?
Yeah.
With, like, settings, time periods, gameplay mechanics, and all these different interesting stories that wouldn't work in SMT, and that's why the spin-offs were fun. The more and more as time goes on, and I realize that all we're really getting is, let's see the cast of Persona 3 in a new wacky scenario.
Yeah.
I'm really bummed about the direction of all of Megami Tensei as a whole.
Yeah, it's getting a lot more like corporatized. Like they're generic. Like it's becoming really generic. They found the formulas that work, man, you know?
Yeah, and hey, I know that I'm an outliner, and I'm not even trying to be the edgy, well, no, mainline over Persona, because fucking mainline sucks now, too.
I liked Apocalypse, fair enough, but, like, I see why people would have issues with it.
We'll see.
But that being said,
SMT5, like... I guess, well, all the cards...
Yeah. See, like, here, I guess my thing, though, too, is, like... They started mixing and matching to a point where, like, you can tell that SMT4A is taking some stuff from Persona and other games. You can tell that Persona is taking some stuff from mainline. They're starting to lose their identity by just mix and matching, and they're just becoming, like, Atlas RPG game, you know? And, like, I feel like that's losing out a little bit. So, Deep Strange Journey is going to be a thing. Do you know any of the spoiler stuff for that game?
I don't know.
Do you want to know?
So I'm gonna say no, just because I've never played Strange Journey.
Okay.
And I probably will go through Deep Strange Journey at some point.
Okay. All I will say, I will not even go into the actual content. I think the new stuff that they do for Deep Strange Journey, at first I was like, oh, that's cool, and then I realized, like, actually, no, that's really lame. So, yeah.
Okay, I'll ask this.
Yeah.
Is it possible to know the spoilers for Deep Strange Journey without ruining anything from Strange Journey?
Yeah.
Maybe later I'll ask.
Okay.
Because maybe I'll just play the DS original I have.
Alright. So... what are your opinions? This is the second question. What are your opinions on Super Mario Sunshine and Super Paper Mario? I will die with Fanji on the hill that they're good, actually. I like Sunshine. I feel
like a lot of people like Sunshine.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's the contested one for sure, but...
Yeah.
I like Sunshine. It's probably my least favorite of the 3D Mario games, but... Do you have any hot Sunshine takes?
Yeah, I guess I should. Not really. I'm not a big Mario guy, honestly. I like Mario World. I like Mario Odyssey is pretty fun. I enjoyed Sunshine when I played it, but I never went back to it. And I've never played any Paper Mario game other than the first one for a bit.
Super Paper Mario is a good game, but, like, that was the first, like, that is a great game, but it's also like, man, because Mario and Luigi is a thing now, and that's the RPG one, Paper Mario will never go back to just being a traditional RPG, and that's been disappointing. Because Super Paper Mario is like a platformer with RPG elements, And the Paper Mario games that came out after that have been, well, like one was a crossover with Mario and Luigi, and the other two are basically like adventure games with like inventory based like combat systems that are kind of RPGs, but like not really. It's weird. So yeah. No, they're both good games, but do either of you guys have a game you consider a guilty pleasure?
I'm sure I do.
Yeah, I do actually. I had to think. Donkey Kong 64. Fucking fight me. I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
I unironically love that game. Okay, I don't know if I can stand by. I have a fond, soft spot for that game. As a kid, I didn't know it was bad. This is really what it comes down to. What about you, Zach?
I know for a fact that I do. I guess maybe Dot Hack.
Nice.
Sonic Adventure.
Yeah, that's one.
Yeah. And Sonic Adventure 2. Honestly, so I mean this as a character. Shadow is a guilty pleasure of mine, not the game, the character. So.
Let's see. I'm gonna look and just make sure I'm not missing out on anything. No, probably nothing standing out to me on my shelf is something I should be guilty for liking. Yeah. No, I'm pretty confident with my Donkey Kong 64 answer.
Yeah.
That's a good one. So yeah. And then last one. Do you guys ever, or have you guys ever had bad group project experiences in school? Yeah. But I feel like I need to think about this one. Like, I don't have it on the tip of my tongue, you know?
So, every group project was a bad group project experience for me because I didn't like group projects.
Mm-hmm.
I was never a big fan of working with other people on things. And hey, for, like, if you haven't picked up after 25 episodes, I'm a little bit of an awkward guy, and that comes through sometimes in having a hard time working with people. So, yeah, not a fan of group projects at all.
The one that will always stick out to me is the one business class I took on. I think it might have been like the first or second semester I was in school. Basically, I needed to take like an intro to business course, even though I wasn't a business student, because I needed it for some of the IT stuff I wanted to take when I was still doing like, basically I needed it for like still doing like the programming stuff. Like I needed that for some of the programming classes I wanted to take. And we had an assignment, and it was, so there was this one girl who actually I kind of knew because she was the daughter of a high school teacher I had. And like I kind of knew of her from him, which is weird. And then there was this other dude who was from Kansas, who I remember because he always complained about how fucking cold it was. And then there was this other guy who was just normal. So I remember towards the end, me and normal guy were like doing our shit and it was fine. Kansas dude was all like, I say you complained about the weather. Kansas dude complained about everything. That was just kind of the like, oh, this dude is just always has a chip on his shoulder. Like everything in his life is falling apart at every single moment type thing, you know? Or like, I even just remember it's like, it would be like in lecture, it'd be like, oh, remember to do like the online quiz tonight or whatever. And he would just be like, oh, online, it's just like complains about everything. And then the one girl was pretty fine until like she had like a bunch of finals and shit, and I don't think she was very good at time management stuff. So they start to fall behind on their stuff. So literally like actually it wasn't the night before, but it was like the night before sort of deal. We all agreed to go to the library to finish up our final big paper we had to do. And dude from Kansas accidentally texts the group. He meant to text normal guy. Okay, I did my part. I wasn't procrastinating or anything. Haha, I knew what I was doing. Hopefully that one bitch does her part. So she gets that text too.
Mm-hmm.
So she comes to the library and she is fuming. And me and normal guy are looking at each other like, oh no. So then he eventually walks through the door and she goes over to him and they start arguing, like screaming in the fucking like lobby. So me and normal guy just hit up and like grab a random computer and we just finish the project while they're screaming. And by the time, so like I can't remember who, one of them left crying, the other one came back and we were like, yeah, we just finished it. And, like, me and normal guy added each other on Facebook and had a really long conversation the weekend after the semester ended. Like, dude, that was the most awkward bullshit. And, yeah. That was a bad time. I feel like I have more, too. Oh, yeah. Actually, there was one I complained about in the Breath of the Wild LP, I think, where,
I don't fucking remember anything that was said in that LP.
I do. There was a dude who, like, he never did, like, we had weekly group assignment type stuff, like, really long papers. It was, like, a very upper level type thing or whatever. And this one dude kept being like, yeah, like, I'll do more work next week. Sorry that I'm busy, like, over and over again. And, like, he just kept not doing work. So then eventually he's like, okay, you know what? To make up for me being a bad group member, I'm going to do all of the work on this next one. And then like 2 days before it's due, he's like, I actually haven't started it. I think I'm going to drop the class.
That's good.
Yeah, so we fucking hated that guy. And then we were also down a group mate for the rest of the fucking semester, so we had to make up for there being one person less than there should have been. Which was terrible. Alright, that's it. Thanks, Derry.
Woo!
Yeah, we did it. I think that's a solid 3 hours and 15 minutes about of WAFP.
Oh, we're finally cutting down, guys.
Yeah.
We'll get back to 2.5 hours one day.
Mm-hmm. I will say, if you ever want to send us emails, it's wearefinallyemail@gmail.com. I feel like we always forget to say it.
I feel like you always say that we forget to say it, but we say it every time.
I don't know if we do.
We've definitely said it the last time.
Probably the last time. I think I forget.
Emails.
Yeah, send us emails, ask us shit.
Even if it's like randomly one day, not like right before the like if
yeah.
a week from now you're like, I wonder what they feel about this, just send it in. It could be about anything.
Just do it.
Ask us what our favorite TV show we're watching recently has been.
Yeah.
Ask us our opinions on a flavor of ice cream you like.
Yeah.
Tell Rasen he's a good boy.
Thank you. Go listen to our movie commentary podcast, Backdoor VHS Shop. You can find it at youtube.com/BVS.
Hey.
No, you can't.
You can't.
Also, I'm going to start blogging again soon. You can find my work at rosin.zone.
Good.
You can find Zach at Zachary XIV. And at
Yep.
Zach,
Just type in Zachary XIV.
and at zachblog.org.
That's not it.
Oh yeah, that's right. It's Zach Blorg.
It's zachslayblog.wordpress.com.
Yeah.
Zach is spelled Z-A-C-H.
Oh, the wrong way.
You could read such amazing blogs as Dynasty Warriors 9 Impressions. I could have talked about that, but fuck it.
Wow, yeah, Jesus, you fucking fraud. You're trying to steal content from WAFP for your lame blog.
You could read things like Looking Back on Final Fantasy 9, or I'm considering quitting Final Fantasy 14.
Ooh, now I gotta write my blogs. I'm considering quitting Final Fantasy IX and looking back on Final Fantasy 14.
Or my classic rambling about the endings of Nier and Nier Automata. What the fuck is... Cut this.